This is Station Firefly, broadcasting from the depths of our underground bunker. I'm Atlas, your beacon in the darkness, your lifeline in this shattered world. It's been 247 days since the first tremors shook our planet, and life as we knew it crumbled beneath our feet. To those of you tuning in, whether you're huddled in makeshift shelters, hidden in abandoned subway tunnels, or clinging to the remains of once towering skyscrapers, know this: you are not alone. We are here, we are alive, and we will survive. As we begin our broadcast today, let me paint a picture of our new reality for those who might be tuning in for the first time. The year is 2031, and Earth has turned against us in ways we never imagined possible. Massive earthquakes have reshaped continents, split cities in two, and swallowed others whole. The ground beneath our feet is no longer the stable foundation we once took for granted. Every step we take is a reminder of how fragile our existence has become. But before we delve into the details of our current situation, let's take a moment to reflect on how far we've come. 247 days ago, we were going about our lives, blissfully unaware of the catastrophe that was about to unfold. We worried about deadlines, bills, and what to have for dinner. Now, our concerns are far more primal: finding shelter, securing food and water, and simply staying alive in a world that seems determined to shake us off its surface. The global landscape has changed dramatically since that fateful day. Coastlines have been redrawn, mountains have crumbled, and vast chasms have opened up where plains once stretched as far as the eye could see. Major cities that once stood as testaments to human ingenuity and progress now lie in ruins, their towering skylines reduced to rubble and dust. But amidst this devastation, pockets of humanity endure. We've received reports of survivors forming communities in the most unlikely places. Some have taken refuge in the upper floors of partially collapsed skyscrapers, creating vertical villages that reach towards the sky. Others have gone underground, transforming subway systems and sewer networks into sprawling subterranean cities. And in rural areas, small towns have banded together, pooling resources and skills to create self-sustaining enclaves. The challenges we face are immense, but so is the human spirit. In every corner of this broken world, people are adapting, innovating, and refusing to give up. We've heard stories of engineers repurposing damaged infrastructure to create safe havens, of farmers developing new techniques to grow crops in unstable soil, and of doctors performing miracles with limited supplies. But let's not sugarcoat the reality of our situation. The world we live in now is fraught with danger at every turn. Aftershocks continue to rock the planet, some nearly as devastating as the initial quakes. Buildings that survived the first onslaught may crumble at any moment. And as if the unstable ground wasn't enough, we're also grappling with the secondary effects of this disaster: widespread fires, flooding in coastal areas, and the ever-present threat of disease in areas where sanitation has broken down. Food and clean water have become precious commodities, with traditional supply chains disrupted and much of our agricultural land rendered unusable. Securing sustenance is a daily struggle for most survivors. Many have turned to foraging, hunting, and fishing to supplement dwindling supplies. Water purification has become a crucial skill, as many of our rivers and lakes have been contaminated by the geological upheaval. Communication, once taken for granted in our interconnected world, is now a luxury. The internet, as we knew it, is largely a thing of the past. Satellite networks have been disrupted, cell towers have fallen, and the vast undersea cables that once connected continents lie severed on the ocean floor. Radio broadcasts like ours have become lifelines, providing not just information but a sense of connection in a world where isolation can be as deadly as the physical dangers we face. But it's not all grim news. In the face of this global catastrophe, we've seen remarkable examples of human resilience and cooperation. International borders, once fiercely guarded, have become meaningless in many parts of the world. Survivors band together based on proximity and shared needs rather than nationality or cultural background. We've received reports of former enemies working side by side to rescue those trapped in rubble, of strangers sharing their last morsels of food, and of communities pooling their knowledge and resources to tackle seemingly insurmountable challenges. Scientists, those who survived and managed to salvage some of their equipment, are working tirelessly to understand this new world we find ourselves in. They're studying the patterns of these ongoing earthquakes, trying to predict where and when the next big one might hit. Their work is crucial not just for our immediate survival, but for our long-term prospects of rebuilding civilization. As we navigate this new reality, knowledge has become our most valuable resource. That's why broadcasts like ours are so vital. We're not just here to provide news and information, but to serve as a repository of human knowledge and experience. Every day, we share survival tips, medical advice, and technical know-how. We broadcast lessons on everything from basic first aid to advanced engineering principles. We're determined to ensure that the sum of human knowledge isn't lost in the rubble of our fallen cities. But perhaps most importantly, we're here to remind you that you're not alone. In a world where every day is a struggle for survival, where the ground beneath your feet could betray you at any moment, it's easy to lose hope. It's easy to feel like you're the only one left, fighting a losing battle against an indifferent universe. But you're not alone. There are others out there, just like you, fighting to survive, to rebuild, to create something meaningful out of the chaos. That's why we're here, broadcasting day after day. We're here to connect survivors, to share your stories, to celebrate your triumphs and mourn your losses. We're here to be a constant in a world of uncertainty, a voice in the darkness reminding you that dawn will come again. As we continue our broadcast today, we'll be diving deeper into various aspects of our new reality. We'll explore the science behind the earthquakes that have reshaped our world, share practical survival tips, and hear inspiring stories from communities that have found innovative ways to thrive in these challenging times. Remember, knowledge is power, especially in a world as unpredictable as ours. So stay tuned, stay alert, and most importantly, stay hopeful. This is Atlas, your guide in the post-quake world, and you're listening to Station Firefly, your lifeline in a world turned upside down. Now, let's turn our attention to the events that brought us to this point. The story of how our world changed forever begins 247 days ago, on what started as an ordinary Tuesday morning. Little did we know that by nightfall, the very foundations of our civilization would be shaken to the core. It was 7 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, when the first tremors hit. I remember it vividly, as I was in the middle of my morning radio show, chatting about the day's weather forecast. The initial shaking was mild, almost imperceptible. Many of us brushed it off as a passing truck or a minor tremor, the kind that's common in certain parts of the world. But within minutes, it became clear that this was something far more serious. The quake intensified rapidly, growing from a gentle vibration to a violent shaking that sent people stumbling and objects flying off shelves. In major cities, skyscrapers swayed dangerously, their steel frames groaning under the stress. Roads buckled and cracked, bridges collapsed, and in coastal areas, the sea seemed to retreat before surging back with terrifying force. What made this earthquake different, what made it the harbinger of our new world, was its scope. This wasn't a localized event affecting a single region or country. Reports quickly flooded in from across the globe. From New York to Tokyo, from London to Sydney, the entire planet seemed to be shaking in unison. As the initial quake subsided, the true scale of the disaster began to emerge. Entire city blocks had been reduced to rubble. Fires raged unchecked as gas lines ruptured and electrical systems short-circuited. In coastal areas, tsunami warnings blared, sending millions scrambling for higher ground. But this was just the beginning. Over the next 24 hours, a series of powerful aftershocks rocked the planet. Each one seemed to target a different region, as if the Earth itself was systematically dismantling the civilization we had built upon its surface. The global communication network, already strained by the initial quake, began to fail. Internet connections became spotty, then non-existent in many areas. Cell phone towers toppled or lost power. Television broadcasts went dark. In those first chaotic hours, radio became the primary means of communication for many, a role it would continue to play in the days and weeks to come. Governments around the world scrambled to respond, but the sheer scale of the disaster overwhelmed even the most prepared nations. Emergency services were quickly stretched beyond their limits. Hospitals, those that remained standing, were inundated with injured survivors. Many of these facilities were forced to operate without power, relying on backup generators that were never meant to run for extended periods. As night fell on that first day, the true horror of our situation began to sink in. Millions were dead or missing. Countless more were injured or trapped in collapsed buildings. And still, the Earth continued to shake. The aftershocks continued to rock the planet, some nearly as powerful as the initial quake. Each new tremor brought fresh destruction, toppling structures weakened by previous shakes and further disrupting rescue and relief efforts. Food and water quickly became critical issues. With supply chains disrupted and many stores and warehouses destroyed, people began to panic. In some areas, looting broke out as desperate survivors fought over dwindling resources. The breakdown of sanitation systems in many urban areas raised fears of disease outbreaks, adding another layer of urgency to an already dire situation. By the end of the first week, it had become clear that this was not a disaster we could simply recover from and move on. The very face of our planet had been altered. Coastlines had shifted, islands had disappeared, and new landmasses had been thrust up from the seafloor. The maps we had used to navigate our world were now obsolete. Perhaps even more significantly, the disaster had laid bare the fragility of our globalized civilization. The complex systems we relied on for everything from food production to energy distribution had been shattered. We found ourselves thrust back to a more primitive state, forced to focus on basic survival in a suddenly hostile world. But even in those dark days, there were glimmers of hope. Stories began to emerge of incredible acts of heroism and selflessness. Neighbors risked their lives to pull strangers from rubble. Communities banded together to share what little they had. In the face of unimaginable adversity, the human spirit showed its resilience. One story that stands out in my memory is that of a group of survivors in what used to be downtown Los Angeles. When the quakes hit, they found themselves trapped on the upper floors of a partially collapsed skyscraper. Rather than succumb to despair, they organized themselves into a vertical community. They rigged up rainwater collection systems on the exposed floors, turned empty offices into living quarters, and even started a small garden on what had once been an executive helipad. Their ingenuity and determination became a blueprint for other urban survivors around the world. In the weeks that followed, we began to hear more and more stories of similar sky communities forming in the ruins of cities across the globe. But for every story of survival and adaptation, there were countless tales of loss and tragedy. Entire families wiped out in an instant, centuries-old cultural landmarks reduced to dust. The death toll, when we finally began to grasp its magnitude, was staggering. Conservative estimates put the number of dead in the hundreds of millions. Some regions, particularly those near coastlines or major fault lines, lost the majority of their populations. The geopolitical map was redrawn almost overnight. Nations that had once been global powers found themselves struggling to maintain basic governance over their shattered territories. Smaller countries, particularly island nations, ceased to exist entirely. The concept of borders became fluid as survivors migrated en masse to areas less affected by the quakes. One of the most significant developments in those early days was the emergence of what came to be known as sanctuary zones. These were areas that, due to quirks of geology or geography, had been less affected by the quakes. Some were in remote mountain regions, others in vast prairie lands far from major fault lines. As word of these relatively stable areas spread, they became magnets for survivors seeking safety and a chance to rebuild. The largest and most well-known of these sanctuary zones formed in the heart of the African continent. The relative stability of the African tectonic plate meant that much of Central Africa had been spared the worst of the quakes. As news of this spread, a massive migration began. Survivors from Europe, Asia, and even the Americas began making their way to Africa by whatever means they could. This great migration brought its own challenges. The sudden influx of millions of refugees strained the resources of the African nations. There were conflicts, inevitably, as different groups competed for space and resources. But there were also remarkable instances of cooperation and cultural exchange. New communities formed, blending traditions and knowledge from around the world. In other parts of the world, different strategies for survival emerged. In the ruins of coastal cities, communities took to the sea, creating floating settlements from the debris of their former homes. These float towns, as they came to be called, became hubs of innovation in marine agriculture and sustainable living. In the colder regions of the world, survivors went underground. Existing subway systems and mines were expanded into vast subterranean cities. These underground havens provided protection not just from the continuing quakes, but also from the extreme weather patterns that began to emerge in the wake of the geological upheaval. As the first month drew to a close, a new normal began to establish itself. The frequency and intensity of the quakes began to diminish, though they were still far more common than in the pre-disaster world. Communities that had formed in the immediate aftermath of the disaster began to stabilize and expand. A new form of global communication started to take shape, based primarily on a network of radio operators who relayed messages across vast distances. It was during this period that stations like ours, Station Firefly, came into their own. We became more than just sources of news and information. We were the threads that connected the scattered remnants of humanity, sharing knowledge, spreading hope, and reminding everyone that they were not alone in this strange new world. Looking back now, 247 days later, it's almost impossible to reconcile the world we live in with the one we knew before that fateful morning. So much has been lost, so many lives cut short, so much of what we took for granted stripped away. But we've also seen incredible resilience, innovation, and compassion. We've been reminded of the strength of the human spirit and our capacity to adapt and survive against all odds. As we continue to navigate this post-quake world, it's crucial that we remember both the tragedy that brought us here and the triumphs we've achieved since. We must honor the memory of those we've lost by building a new world that's more resilient, more equitable, and more in harmony with the planet we call home. In the coming segments, we'll be taking a closer look at how our world has changed, exploring the new geography of our planet and the surviving regions that are leading the way in rebuilding. We'll also be sharing vital information on how to stay safe in this still unstable environment. So stay tuned, stay alert, and remember, you are not alone. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Firefly, your lifeline in the post-quake world. As we continue our broadcast, let's take a closer look at the new landscape of our post-quake world. The Earth we knew, with its familiar continents, coastlines, and topographical features, has been dramatically reshaped. The massive seismic events we've experienced have not only destroyed our built environment, but have also fundamentally altered the very face of our planet. Starting with the Americas, the changes have been profound. The San Andreas Fault, long the source of concern for Californians, finally gave way in spectacular fashion. Much of coastal California, including large portions of Los Angeles and San Francisco, now lies beneath the Pacific. The Central Valley, once one of the most productive agricultural regions in the world, has become an inland sea. This new body of water, which some survivors have started calling the California Gulf, stretches from what used to be Bakersfield in the south to the outskirts of Sacramento in the north. Further east, the new Madrid Fault Zone, which had been relatively quiet for 2 centuries, roared to life. The Mississippi River, already swollen from increased rainfall, was violently redirected. It now splits into 2 main branches near the former site of Memphis, creating a vast delta that stretches from the Ohio River to the Gulf of Mexico. This new wetland region has become a haven for wildlife, but it has also cut off much of the southeastern United States from the rest of the continent. In South America, the Andes have experienced significant upheaval. New volcanic activity has rendered large swaths of Chile and Peru uninhabitable. The Amazon basin, already under threat from deforestation, has been further transformed. Massive landslides and altered river courses have created a patchwork of lakes and newly exposed land throughout the region. Turning our attention to Europe, the changes are equally dramatic. The Mediterranean Sea, birthplace of Western civilization, has seen its geography rewritten. The collision of the African and Eurasian tectonic plates has pushed up new mountain ranges along the Mediterranean floor. The sea is now dotted with new islands, while formerly coastal cities like Barcelona, Marseille, and Naples find themselves miles inland. The Alps, Europe's central mountain range, have grown taller and more treacherous. Glaciers that had been retreating due to climate change have shattered, creating deadly ice falls and altering local weather patterns. The North European plain, once the agricultural heartland of the continent, has been transformed into a landscape of hills and valleys, with new rivers and lakes forming in the depressions. In the United Kingdom, the English Channel has widened significantly. Much of southeastern England, including large parts of London, now lies beneath the waves. Scotland, on the other hand, has seen its highlands rise even higher, creating a formidable barrier between it and what remains some of the worst effects of the quakes due to its position on a stable cratonic plate, has not emerged unscathed. The Great Rift Valley, already a testament to the power of geological forces, has widened and deepened. In some places, the sea has rushed in, creating new inland waterways. The Sahara, surprisingly, has seen some benefits from the catastrophe. The shifting of tectonic plates has altered wind patterns, bringing more moisture to parts of the desert. There are reports of new oases forming, offering hope for increased habitability in the region. Asia, home to 60% of the world's pre-quake population, has seen some of the most dramatic changes. The collision of the Indian subcontinent with the Eurasian plate, which had been pushing up the Himalayas for millions of years, accelerated dramatically. The already towering mountains grew even higher, with some peaks possibly now reaching altitudes that make them virtually unclimbable. The pressure created by this collision has caused widespread buckling of the Earth's crust across Central Asia, creating new mountain ranges and valleys from the Iranian plateau to western China. The impact on the region's rivers has been profound. The courses of the Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra have all been altered, creating new watersheds and redrawing the agricultural map of South Asia. In China, the Yangtze and Yellow rivers have found new paths to the sea, transforming the landscape of the country's heartland. Perhaps most dramatically, the ongoing subduction of the Pacific Plate beneath East Asia has led to the emergence of new volcanic islands off the coasts of Japan, Korea, and eastern Russia. At the same time, significant portions of Japan's coastal areas, including parts of Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya, have been lost to the sea. Southeast Asia has seen its archipelagic nature amplified. Rising sea levels, combined with geological changes, have fragmented larger islands like Sumatra and Borneo into clusters of smaller landmasses. The South China Sea, already a contentious area, has become even more complex with the emergence of new islands and the submergence of others. Australia, often called the island continent, has become even more isolated. The seismic activity raised the seafloor between it and Southeast Asia, making the already formidable ocean crossing even more challenging. The interior of the continent, much of it desert, has seen increased rainfall due to altered weather patterns, leading to the formation of new inland lakes and rivers. In the Pacific, the Ring of Fire lived up to its name. Volcanic activity dramatically increased across the region, giving birth to new islands while consigning others to the depths. The Hawaiian Islands, product of millions of years of volcanic activity, saw that process accelerated. New landmasses have emerged, connecting some of the islands and creating a larger, more contiguous Hawaii. Antarctica, while less affected by the quakes themselves, has not been immune to change. The shifting of other landmasses has altered ocean currents, leading to accelerated melting of the ice shelves. This has not only contributed to rising sea levels globally, but has also exposed new areas of the Antarctic continent, hinting at mineral resources that may become crucial in our resource-strapped world. The Arctic has seen similar changes. The Greenland ice sheet, already vulnerable to climate change, has experienced rapid melting due to increased geothermal activity. This has not only raised sea levels but has also exposed new lands in Greenland, leading some to speculate about the potential for new settlements in the far north. These geographical changes have had profound implications for the survivors. Many of the world's most populous cities, often located in coastal areas or along major fault lines, have been destroyed or rendered uninhabitable. This has led to mass migrations as people seek out safer ground. Some of the most stable regions have become beacons for survivors. The African sanctuary zone I mentioned earlier has become one of the most populous areas in the post-quake world. parts of central Russia, the Canadian Shield, and the Brazilian highlands have also seen influxes of refugees seeking geological stability. The loss of so much arable land, particularly in the major river valleys of Asia and the American Midwest, has forced a complete rethinking of global food production. Survivors have had to become experts in identifying and cultivating edible plants native to their new environments. In some areas, the changed landscape has actually opened up new agricultural possibilities. The greening parts of the Sahara, for instance, have become a focus of intense agricultural experimentation. The altered coastlines and new inland seas have also changed global weather patterns. Areas that were once temperate have become tropical, while others have cooled dramatically. Survivors have had to quickly adapt to these new climatic realities, developing new techniques for shelter, food production, and energy generation suited to their changed environments. Perhaps one of the most significant impacts of these geographical changes has been on transportation and communication. With many ports destroyed, seas becoming more treacherous, and land routes disrupted, global trade as we knew it has become virtually impossible. Communities have been forced to become more self-sufficient, relying on local resources and ingenuity to meet their needs. This new geography has also reshaped the distribution of vital resources. Oil fields that once powered the global economy now lie under newly formed seas. On the other hand, mineral deposits that were once inaccessible have been exposed by the geological upheaval. The scramble to identify and secure these resources has become a major focus for many surviving communities. The reshaping of our world has also had profound psychological impacts. For survivors, the loss of familiar landmarks and landscapes has contributed to a sense of displacement and disorientation. The world we knew, the one we had mapped and measured and thought we understood, is gone. We are now pioneers in a strange new land, even if that land is the very earth we've always called home. But with this challenge comes opportunity. The blank spaces on our mental maps, the unknown territories just over the horizon, call to the explorer in each of us. Already, we're hearing reports of expeditions setting out to chart our new world. These modern-day explorers face dangers as real as those confronted by the great navigators of the past. But their work is crucial. Each new island discovered, each new river course mapped, helps us to understand our changed planet and our place on it. As we continue to adapt to this new world, it's clear that our relationship with the Earth itself must change. The catastrophe we've lived through has shown us the awesome power of geological forces, forces we once thought operated only on timescales too vast for us to perceive. We've been reminded, in the most visceral way possible, that our planet is a dynamic, ever-changing entity, not a static stage for human activity. In future segments, we'll be exploring how survivors in different regions are adapting to their new environments. We'll share stories of ingenuity and resilience, of communities finding opportunity in adversity. We'll also be providing practical advice on how to stay safe in our still unstable world, including tips on recognizing signs of impending seismic activity and strategies for securing shelter in different types of terrain. Remember, knowledge is our most valuable resource in this new world. Stay tuned, stay informed, and stay safe. This is Atlas, your guide in the post-quake world, and you're listening to Station Firefly. As we continue our broadcast, let's focus on one of the most crucial aspects of survival in our post-quake world: shelter. In these uncertain times, where the ground beneath our feet can betray us at any moment, finding and maintaining safe shelter has become a matter of life and death. Whether you're in the ruins of a once great city or in the wilderness of our reshaped continents, the principles of secure shelter remain the same. First and foremost, we need to understand that our concept of safe structures has fundamentally changed. The skyscrapers and apartment blocks that once housed millions are now potential death traps. Even buildings that appear intact on the surface may have suffered structural damage that makes them unsafe. So, how do we identify a safe structure in this new world? The key is to look for buildings with flexible designs that can withstand seismic activity. In many areas, traditional earthquake-resistant structures have proven their worth. These include buildings with base isolation systems, which essentially allow the structure to float on its foundation during a quake. If you're in an urban area, look for newer buildings that might have incorporated these technologies. However, given the increased frequency and intensity of seismic activity in our new reality, even these structures may not be entirely safe. This is why many survivors have turned to alternative shelter solutions. One approach that has gained popularity is the use of geodesic domes. These structures, made up of interconnected triangles, distribute stress evenly across the entire structure, making them incredibly resistant to earthquakes. Another option that has proven effective is the use of yurts or jairs, traditional dwellings of nomadic peoples in Central Asia. These circular structures, with their flexible frames and tensioned coverings, have a natural resistance to seismic forces. They're also portable, which is a significant advantage in a world where we may need to relocate quickly. For those in areas with access to sturdy trees, tree houses have become a surprisingly viable option. They're less affected by the shaking of the earth. Just be sure to choose healthy, mature trees and use flexible attachments to allow for movement during quakes. In regions where natural caves are available, these have become prime real estate. Caves offer excellent protection not just from earthquakes but also from extreme weather events, which have become more common in our changed climate. However, it's crucial to thoroughly inspect any cave for stability before setting up a long-term shelter. Look for signs of recent rock falls or cracks that might indicate instability. For those without access to existing structures or natural formations, creating makeshift shelters has become a vital skill. One effective design is the A-frame shelter. Its triangular shape provides stability, and when properly anchored, it can withstand significant ground movement. These can be constructed from a variety of materials, from salvaged lumber to bamboo in tropical areas. In colder regions, the igloo has seen a resurgence. While traditionally associated with Arctic cultures, the principles of igloo construction can be applied using a variety of materials. The dome shape disperses pressure evenly, making it resistant to collapse during seismic events. Regardless of the type of shelter you choose or construct, there are several universal principles to keep in mind. First, always have multiple exits. In the event of a collapse or blocked pathway, having alternative escape routes can be life-saving. Second, secure heavy objects and furniture. In a quake, these can become deadly projectiles. Use straps, brackets, or even improvised rope systems to fasten them in place. Keep essential supplies, including water, non-perishable food, first aid kits, and communication devices, in easily accessible locations near exits. In the chaos of a sudden quake, you may only have seconds to grab these before evacuating. It's also crucial to maintain your shelter, whatever form it takes. Regularly inspect for signs of wear or damage, especially after any seismic activity. Small issues, if caught early, can often be repaired before they become major structural problems. Now, let's address a question many of you have been asking. What about long-term shelter solutions? As we adapt to this new, more geologically active world, we need to think beyond immediate survival and consider how we can create stable, sustainable communities. One approach that's showing promise is the development of underground or partially underground settlements. By building into the earth itself, we can create structures that move with the ground rather than fighting against it. Some communities have begun expanding existing cave systems or repurposing old mines to create vast subterranean cities. These underground havens offer protection not just from earthquakes, but also from the extreme weather events that have become more common in our post-quake world. They maintain a relatively stable temperature year-round, reducing the need for energy-intensive heating and cooling systems. However, living underground comes with its own set of challenges. Ensuring adequate ventilation and dealing with potential flooding are major concerns. Some communities have addressed these issues by incorporating advanced air filtration systems and implementing extensive drainage networks. Another long-term solution that's gaining traction is the concept of floating cities. In coastal areas where land has become unstable or submerged, communities are taking to the water. These floating settlements, often constructed from salvaged materials and decommissioned ships, rise and fall with the waves, unaffected by the movements of the earth below. These aquatic communities face their own unique challenges, particularly in terms of food and freshwater production. However, they've also become hubs of innovation, developing new techniques for marine agriculture and desalination. For those determined to remain on solid ground, earthbag construction has emerged as a promising technique. This method involves filling sacks with soil or other materials and stacking them to create sturdy, earthquake-resistant structures. The flexibility of the bags allows the building to flex rather than crack during seismic events. Earthbag buildings can be constructed in a variety of shapes, from traditional rectangular structures to domes and arches. They're also highly insulating, making them suitable for a wide range of climates. Perhaps most importantly, the materials are readily available in most areas, making this an accessible option for many communities. As we discuss these shelter options, it's important to remember that the best solution will vary depending on your specific circumstances. Factors like local climate, available materials, and the particular geological conditions of your area all play a role in determining the most suitable shelter strategy. It's also crucial to consider the social aspects of shelter. Humans are social creatures, and in these challenging times, the support of a community can be as important for survival as the physical structure over our heads. Many of the most successful post-quake settlements have found ways to balance the need for physical safety with the need for human connection. Some communities have adopted a hybrid approach, combining individual family shelters with communal spaces. These shared areas, often built to higher safety standards than individual dwellings, serve as gathering places, storage for communal resources, and refuges during particularly severe seismic events. In urban areas, some survivors have taken to creating vertical communities in the remains of skyscrapers. They've reinforced lower floors to create communal areas and hydroponic gardens, while upper floors are converted into living spaces. These tower communities have the advantage of height, which can be crucial in areas prone to tsunami risks. No matter what type of shelter you choose, remember that preparation is key. Always have an emergency plan in place. This should include designated meeting points for your family or community, evacuation routes, and a communication strategy for when normal channels are disrupted. Regularly practice earthquake drills. In the event of a quake, remember to drop, cover, and hold on. Get under a sturdy piece of furniture if possible, and stay away from windows or items that could fall. Keep an emergency kit prepared at all times. This should include water, non-perishable food, first aid supplies, flashlights, batteries, and a hand crank radio. If possible, include copies of important documents in a waterproof container. For those of you listening who might be in temporary or less than ideal shelter situations, don't lose hope. Remember, every day that you survive is a victory. Keep looking for ways to improve your situation, and don't be afraid to reach out to others. In this new world, cooperation and the sharing of knowledge are key to our collective survival. In our next segment, we'll be discussing another crucial aspect of survival: securing food and water in our changed environment. We'll explore new techniques for foraging, discuss how to identify safe water sources, and share innovative approaches to sustainable food production that communities around the world are developing. Remember, in this new world, adaptability is our greatest strength. Stay safe, stay informed, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your lifeline in the post-quake world. This is Atlas, signing off for now, but I'll be back soon with more vital information for navigating our new reality. Welcome back, survivors. This is Atlas, and you're tuned in to Station Firefly. In our previous segment, we discussed the critical importance of secure shelter in our post-quake world. Now, let's turn our attention to another fundamental aspect of survival: securing food and water. The massive geological changes we've experienced have drastically altered our food and water supplies. Traditional agricultural regions have been destroyed or transformed, and many water sources have been contaminated or redirected. In this new reality, we must adapt our approaches to finding sustenance. Let's start with water, the most crucial element for survival. In the immediate aftermath of a quake, your safest bet is to rely on stored water. If you haven't already, make it a priority to keep a supply of clean water on hand at all times. Aim for at least 1 gallon per person per day, and try to have enough for at least a week. When your stored water runs out, or if you're on the move, you'll need to find new sources. Rivers, streams, and lakes are obvious choices, but be aware that many of these have been contaminated by the geological upheaval. Never assume that clear-looking water is safe to drink. One reliable source of water is rainwater. Set up a collection system using clean containers and a tarp or other large, clean surface to funnel the water. In coastal areas, some communities have had success with small-scale desalination operations, using solar stills to purify seawater. Regardless of your water source, purification is crucial. Boiling is the most reliable method if you have the means to do so. Bring water to a rolling boil for at least 1 minute at sea level, and add an extra minute for every 1,000 feet above sea level. If boiling isn't an option, chemical purification tablets or drops can be effective. In a pinch, leaving clear water in a clear plastic bottle in direct sunlight for at least 6 hours can kill many harmful microorganisms. Now let's talk about food. The disruption of global and local food supply chains means we can no longer rely on grocery stores or large-scale agriculture. We must return to more primal methods of securing nutrition: foraging, hunting, and small-scale farming. Foraging has become a critical skill in our new world. However, its essential plants are toxic and misidentification can be fatal. If you're new to foraging, start with easily identifiable plants like dandelions, which are nutritious and found in many parts of the world. The leaves can be eaten raw or cooked, and the roots can be roasted as a coffee substitute. In urban and suburban areas, fruit trees that once served as landscaping can now be valuable food sources. Apple, pear, and citrus trees are common in many regions and provide easily identifiable, nutritious fruits. For those near coastlines, seaweed is an excellent foraging option. It's nutrient-dense and often abundant. Kelp, nori, and dulse are all edible varieties found in many coastal areas. Just be sure to harvest from clean waters and rinse thoroughly before consuming. Mushroom foraging can be rewarding but is also one of the riskiest forms of foraging. Many mushroom species are toxic, and some can be fatal if ingested. Unless you're absolutely certain of your identification skills, it's best to avoid wild mushrooms altogether. Hunting and fishing have also become crucial survival skills. If you have access to firearms and ammunition, hunting can provide a significant source of protein. However, be aware that in many areas, wildlife populations have been disrupted by the geological changes, so game may be scarce. Fishing can be a more reliable option, particularly in coastal areas or near freshwater bodies. Even in urban environments, many survivors have had success fishing in flooded areas or newly formed waterways. Basic fishing gear is relatively easy to improvise. A line, a hook, which can be fashioned from wire or even strong thorns, and some form of bait. For those in urban environments, rats and pigeons, while not appetizing to many, can be valuable sources of protein. These animals have thrived in the post-quake world and are relatively easy to trap. Always cook these thoroughly to avoid any potential diseases. Insects are another often overlooked food source. Many species are highly nutritious and can be found in abundance. Grasshoppers, crickets, and mealworms are all edible and can be roasted for a crunchy, protein-rich snack. While these immediate food-gathering techniques are crucial for short-term survival, we must also think about long-term, sustainable food production. Many communities have begun experimenting with various forms of urban and small-scale agriculture. Rooftop gardens have become common in urban areas where ground-level space is limited or unstable. These not only provide fresh produce, but also help insulate buildings and manage rainwater runoff. Vertical gardening techniques, using walls or specially designed structures, allow for maximum food production in minimal space. Hydroponics and aquaponics systems have gained popularity, especially in areas where soil has been contaminated or where water conservation is crucial. These systems use significantly less water than traditional farming methods and can be set up in a variety of environments, even indoors. In some regions, survivors have had success reviving ancient agricultural techniques suited to their new environments. In areas that have become more arid, some communities are implementing permaculture designs inspired by traditional desert agriculture. These systems often involve water harvesting earthworks and the use of drought-resistant plants. In the newly formed inland seas and expanded coastal areas, Some innovative communities have begun experimenting with floating gardens. These are essentially rafts made of reeds and other plant materials, topped with soil. This technique, inspired by ancient practices in places like Lake Titicaca, allows for agriculture in areas where land is scarce or unstable. Seed saving has become a crucial practice in many communities. With the disruption of commercial seed production and distribution, maintaining a diverse seed bank can mean the difference between feast and famine. If you're growing any kind of crops, make sure to save some seeds from each harvest. It's also important to consider food preservation. Without reliable electricity, many traditional preservation methods are no longer viable. However, techniques like solar drying, smoking, and fermentation can effectively extend the shelf life of many foods. Salt, if you can obtain it, is invaluable for preservation. One preservation method that has seen a resurgence is the root cellar. These underground rooms stay cool year-round, providing ideal conditions for storing root vegetables, apples, and other produce. In areas where digging is possible, creating a root cellar can significantly enhance a community's food security. Now, I want to address a question many of you have been asking. What about the long-term future of our food supply? As we adapt to our new geological reality, we need to think beyond day-to-day survival and consider how we can create sustainable food systems for the future. One promising approach is the development of food forests. These are multi-layered gardens that mimic natural forest ecosystems. They typically include tall nut and fruit trees, smaller berry bushes, herbs, and ground cover plants. Once established, food forests require minimal maintenance and can provide a diverse range of foods year after year. Another concept gaining traction is that of edible landscapes. This involves replacing ornamental plants with edible ones in public spaces. In the post-quake world, every bit of arable land is precious, and many communities are transforming parks and other public areas into productive food gardens. In coastal areas and along the new inland seas, aquaculture has become a major focus. Fish farming, seaweed cultivation, and shellfish beds can provide sustainable sources of protein and other nutrients. Some communities are combining aquaculture with floating gardens to create self-sustaining aquatic ecosystems. As we rebuild our world, we have an opportunity to create more resilient and sustainable food systems than those we had before. Many communities are focusing on polyculture rather than monoculture, growing a diverse range of crops to ensure food security and maintain soil health. There's also a growing emphasis on cultivating native and climate-appropriate plants. As our local climates have changed, many of the crops we once relied on may no longer be viable. By focusing on plants that are well adapted to our new conditions, we can create more stable and productive food systems. It's crucial to remember that in this new world, food security is a community effort. Sharing knowledge, resources, and labor can make the difference between survival and starvation. Many communities have established seed libraries, tool-sharing programs, and communal kitchens to make the most of their collective resources. For those of you who are part of larger settlements, consider establishing a community garden if you haven't already. These spaces not only provide food, but also serve as centers for learning and social connection. In these challenging times, the act of growing food together can be a powerful source of hope and community cohesion. If you're on your own or in a small group, don't hesitate to reach out to others. Trading surplus food or collaborating on foraging expeditions can benefit everyone involved. Remember, in our post-quake world, cooperation is key to survival. As we conclude this segment on food and water, I want to emphasize the importance of ongoing learning. The world has changed, and we must change with it. Stay curious, experiment with new techniques, and always be ready to adapt. Share your knowledge with others, and be open to learning from those around you. In our next segment, we'll be discussing another crucial aspect of survival: medical care in our new world. We'll explore common injuries and ailments in the post-quake environment, discuss basic first aid techniques, and share strategies for managing chronic conditions with limited resources. Remember, every day that you survive is a victory. Stay strong, stay adaptable, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your lifeline in the post-quake world. This is Atlas, reminding you that even in the darkest times, there is always hope. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Welcome back, survivors. This is Atlas, broadcasting from Station Firefly. In our previous segments, we've covered the critical aspects of shelter, food, and water in our post-quake world. Now, we turn our attention to another crucial element of survival: medical care. The healthcare landscape has changed dramatically since the earthquakes began. Many hospitals and clinics have been destroyed or rendered inoperable. Medical supplies are scarce, and trained healthcare professionals are spread thin. In this new reality, basic medical knowledge has become essential for everyone. Let's start by discussing some of the most common injuries and ailments we're seeing in the post-quake environment. Traumatic injuries from falling debris or collapsing structures continue to be a major concern. Fractures, cuts, bruises, and crush injuries are unfortunately common occurrences during and immediately after seismic events. For fractures, immobilization is key. If you suspect a broken bone, try to keep the injured area still. Improvised splints can be made from sturdy materials like wood or plastic, padded with cloth. For arm or shoulder injuries, a sling can be created from a piece of clothing or a sheet. Cuts and lacerations are another frequent issue. Clean the wound thoroughly with purified water if available. If not, even non-potable water is better than nothing when it comes to removing debris from a wound. Apply direct pressure to stop bleeding. For deeper cuts, butterfly bandages can be improvised by cutting strips of tape into a narrow hourglass shape. Crush injuries are particularly dangerous and require careful management. If someone has been trapped under debris, sudden release can cause a dangerous condition called crush syndrome, where toxins built up in the compressed limb flood the body. If possible, seek professional medical help for crush injuries. Beyond these acute injuries, we're seeing a rise in chronic health issues exacerbated by our new living conditions. Respiratory problems are common, particularly in areas with increased dust and debris in the air. If you're in such an area, try to cover your mouth and nose with a cloth when outside. If you have access to them, masks can be highly effective. Gastrointestinal issues have also become prevalent due to changes in diet and potential contamination of food and water sources. Proper food handling and water purification are your first lines of defense. If diarrhea occurs, maintaining hydration is crucial. Oral rehydration solutions can be made by mixing 6 level teaspoons of sugar and half a level teaspoon of salt into 1 liter of clean water. Skin conditions have become more common as well. Extended exposure to the elements, lack of proper hygiene facilities, and changes in diet can all contribute to various skin problems. Keep skin clean and dry as much as possible. If rashes develop, keeping the area clean and exposed to air can often help. Mental health is another critical aspect of medical care in our new world. The trauma of the earthquakes, combined with the ongoing stress of survival, has taken a toll on many. If you're struggling, know that you're not alone. Try to maintain routines, connect with others, and engage in activities that bring you a sense of purpose or joy, even if they seem small. Now, let's talk about first aid techniques that everyone should know. CPR, or cardiopulmonary resuscitation, can be life-saving. The basics involve chest compressions at a rate of about 100 to 120 per minute. Push hard and fast in the center of the chest, allowing full recoil between compressions. For severe bleeding, apply direct pressure to the wound. If bleeding doesn't stop with direct pressure, you may need to apply pressure to the major artery leading to the area. For arm injuries, press hard against the brachial artery on the inner arm between the elbow and armpit. For leg injuries, press against the femoral artery in the groin area. Knowing how to treat burns is also crucial. For minor burns, cool the area with clean, room temperature water for about 10 minutes. Do not use ice, as this can cause further damage. Cover the burn with a clean, dry dressing. For more severe burns, seek professional help if possible. In the meantime, do not remove clothing stuck to the burn, and try to keep the burned area elevated above the heart. Recognizing and responding to heat-related illnesses is important, especially as many of us are spending more time outdoors. Heat exhaustion symptoms include heavy sweating, dizziness, and a rapid pulse. Move the person to a cooler location, have them lie down, and apply cool, wet cloths to the body. Hypothermia is a risk in colder climates or during winter months. Symptoms include shivering, confusion, and slurred speech. Warm the person gradually, starting with the body core. If you have warm drinks available, offer them to the person if they're fully conscious. Knowledge of basic wound care is essential. Clean the wound thoroughly, apply an antibiotic ointment if available, and cover with a sterile bandage. Change the dressing daily or whenever it gets wet or dirty. For those managing chronic conditions, the lack of regular medical care and medication presents significant challenges. If you're rationing medication, consult with a healthcare professional if possible to determine the most crucial doses. For conditions like diabetes, learning to manage diet carefully becomes even more important. In the absence of pharmaceutical medications, many communities have turned to herbal remedies. While these can be effective for some conditions, it's important to approach them with caution. Proper identification of plants is crucial, as many medicinal plants have toxic lookalikes. Some widely available plants with medicinal properties include garlic, which has antibacterial properties, ginger, which can help with nausea and inflammation, and chamomile, which can aid sleep and digestion. Yarrow, found in many parts of the world, can be used to stop bleeding when applied directly to wounds. Creating a basic medical kit is essential for every individual and community. If possible, include items like bandages, gauze, adhesive tape, scissors, tweezers, and antiseptic wipes. Pain relievers, antihistamines, and antidiarrheal medication are also valuable if you can acquire them. In many areas, survivors have established community clinics to pool medical resources and knowledge. If you have any medical training, consider offering your skills to such efforts. Even without formal training, you may be able to assist with basic tasks, freeing up more experienced individuals for complex cases. Sanitation and hygiene have become more important than ever in preventing the spread of disease. Wash your hands frequently using soap if available. If soap is scarce, ash can be an effective alternative. Keeping living areas clean, properly disposing of waste, and quarantining those with infectious illnesses are all crucial practices. For communities looking to the future, reestablishing some form of medical infrastructure is a priority. Some groups have had success repurposing sturdy buildings into makeshift hospitals. Others have created mobile medical units that can travel between settlements. Training new healthcare workers has become a focus in many areas. Those with medical knowledge are passing on their skills through apprenticeship programs. Books on medicine and first aid have become valuable resources, carefully preserved and shared among communities. As we adapt to our new reality, we're seeing innovative approaches to healthcare emerge. Some communities have revived traditional healing practices, combining them with modern medical knowledge. Others are experimenting with telemedicine, using salvaged communication equipment to connect remote areas with medical experts. In coastal areas, some groups have found success cultivating seaweed and marine algae for their medicinal properties. These can be used to create poultices for wounds and as nutritional supplements to boost overall health. For dental care, many have returned to traditional methods like using twigs from trees with natural antibacterial properties as toothbrushes. Saltwater rinses have become a common practice for maintaining oral hygiene and treating minor mouth infections. The challenges we face in providing medical care are significant, but human ingenuity continues to find solutions. In some areas, survivors have managed to retrofit machinery to produce basic medical supplies. Others have developed new techniques for sterilizing equipment using limited resources. It's important to remember that in this new world, prevention is more crucial than ever. Maintaining good overall health through proper nutrition, hydration, and physical activity can significantly reduce your risk of illness and injury. Regular exercise, even in limited spaces, can help maintain strength and flexibility, reducing the risk of injuries during daily activities. Simple bodyweight exercises like push-ups, squats, and lunges require no equipment and can be done in small areas. Stress management techniques like deep breathing, meditation, or simple stretching can help maintain mental health and reduce the physical toll of chronic stress on the body. As we conclude this segment on medical care, I want to emphasize the importance of community in our health and well-being. Look out for one another. Share knowledge and resources. In these challenging times, our greatest strength lies in our ability to support each other. In our next segment, we'll be shining a spotlight on some of the innovative survival techniques that communities around the world have developed. From ingenious shelter designs to creative solutions for energy production, we'll explore how human resilience and creativity are helping us adapt to our new reality. Remember, every day that we survive is a victory. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your lifeline in the post-quake world. This is Atlas, reminding you that even in the darkest times, the human spirit shines bright. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your guide in the post-quake world. In our previous segments, we've covered crucial aspects of survival, from shelter and sustenance to medical care. Today, we're going to shine a spotlight on some of the remarkable communities that have not only survived but found innovative ways to thrive in our new reality. Let's start with a story from what used to be the outskirts of Seattle. In the aftermath of the quakes that reshaped the Pacific Northwest, a group of survivors found themselves stranded on a newly formed island. Rather than attempting a perilous journey to the mainland, they decided to make this island their home. What's remarkable is how they've adapted to their new environment. This community, which calls itself New Cascadia, has developed a unique approach to sustainable living. They've constructed homes using a combination of salvaged materials and local resources. The most striking feature of their settlement is the network of tree houses connected by rope bridges. These elevated dwellings provide safety from the frequent tremors that still shake the region and offer protection from the occasional tsunami warnings. What's truly innovative about New Cascadia is their approach to food production. They've implemented a system of vertical gardens, using the tall trees that cover much of the island. These gardens not only provide the trees, reducing the risk of falling during seismic events. The community has also become adept at seaweed farming, cultivating vast underwater gardens in the shallow waters surrounding their island. Moving to the other side of the continent, we have an inspiring story from the flooded regions of the former Mississippi Delta. Here, a group of survivors has created a floating community they call River's End. Using salvaged boats, barges, and even pieces of floating debris, they've constructed a mobile village that can navigate the expanded waterways of the region. River's End is a marvel of adaptive engineering. Their homes are built on platforms that can rise and fall with changing water levels, a crucial feature in an area prone to frequent flooding. They've developed an intricate system of rainwater collection and filtration, ensuring a steady supply of fresh water. For food, they rely on a combination of fishing, hydroponic gardens, and trade with other riverside communities. What's particularly noteworthy about River's End is their communication network. They've repurposed old radio equipment to create a long-range communication system that allows them to stay in touch with other floating communities across the expanded Mississippi Basin. This network has become a vital tool for sharing resources, warning of incoming storms, and coordinating large-scale fishing operations. In the arid regions of what used to be the American Southwest, we find another remarkable tale of adaptation. The community of Sunhaven has turned the harsh desert environment to their advantage. Built into the side of a cliff face, Sunhaven is nearly invisible from a distance, providing protection from both the elements and potential threats. The ingenuity of Sunhaven lies in their water management system. They've developed an extensive network of underground cisterns to capture and store the rare but often intense rainfall of the region. These cisterns are connected to a series of channels carved into the cliff face, allowing them to direct water flow and prevent erosion during heavy rains. But perhaps the most impressive aspect of Sunhaven is their energy production. The community has become a leader in solar power technology, using the abundant sunlight of the desert to power their entire settlement. They've even developed mobile solar units that can be quickly disassembled and moved in case of sandstorms or other threats. Across the Atlantic, in the highlands of what was once Scotland, we find the community of New Caledonia. This group has embraced the cooler climate and rugged terrain of their home, developing a unique approach to sustainable mountain living. Their homes are a blend of traditional Scottish crofts and modern earthquake-resistant design, built low to the ground and partially embedded in the hillsides. New Caledonia has become renowned for their expertise in animal husbandry. They've selectively bred hardy species of sheep and goats that can thrive in the challenging mountain environment. These animals provide wool for clothing, milk for dairy products, and occasionally meat for the community. The New Caledonians have also become skilled in preserving food for the long, harsh winters, developing new techniques for smoking and fermentation. What sets New Caledonia apart is their approach to education. Recognizing the importance of preserving knowledge for future generations, they've established a rigorous apprenticeship system. Every member of the community, regardless of age, is expected to both teach and learn. This system ensures that crucial survival skills are passed on and that the community continues to adapt and innovate. In the heart of the African continent, where the relative stability of the tectonic plate has drawn survivors from around the world, we find the remarkable city-state of Unity. This diverse community has brought together people from countless cultures, each contributing their unique knowledge and skills to create a thriving metropolis. Unity is a testament to human cooperation and ingenuity. The city is built in concentric circles, with the outermost ring dedicated to agriculture. Here, they've implemented a system of permaculture that combines traditional African farming techniques with modern sustainable practices. The result is a highly productive green belt that not only feeds the city but also helps to stabilize the soil and prevent erosion. The inner rings of Unity are a fascinating blend of architectural styles, reflecting the diverse backgrounds of its inhabitants. You'll find sturdy earthbag homes next to sleek bamboo structures, traditional African rondavelles alongside repurposed shipping containers. This diversity extends to every aspect of life in Unity, from the variety of languages spoken to the fusion of culinary traditions in their communal kitchens. What's truly inspiring about Unity is their commitment to knowledge preservation and sharing. They've established a vast library, carefully collecting and preserving books and digital information from around the world. This library has become a center of learning, with classes and workshops running day and night on topics ranging from advanced seismology to traditional herbal medicine. In South America, in the shadow of the altered Andes, we find the sky city of Condor's Nest. Built on a series of high plateaus, this community has adapted to life at extreme altitudes. Their homes are a marvel of engineering, designed to withstand both the thin air and the frequent tremors that still shake the region. Condor's Nest has become a leader in high-altitude agriculture. They've developed greenhouse systems that can operate in the harsh mountain environment, providing fresh produce year-round. They've also domesticated several species of high-altitude plants, creating new food sources that are uniquely adapted to their environment. But what truly sets Condor's Nest apart is their early warning system for seismic activity. Using a network of sensors embedded in the surrounding mountains, they've developed the ability to predict earthquakes with remarkable accuracy. This system has not only kept their community safe, but has also made Condor's Nest a crucial hub for seismological research in the post-quake world. In the vast steppes of Central Asia, we find the nomadic community known as the Wind Riders. Unlike many of the settled communities we've discussed, the Wind Riders have embraced a fully mobile lifestyle. They live in modern versions of traditional yurts, capable of being quickly dismantled and moved in response to changing conditions or seismic threats. The Wind Riders have developed an intricate understanding of the post-quake ecology of the steppes. They follow the migrations of the herds that have adapted to the new landscape, supplementing their diet with foraged plants and cultivated portable gardens. Their mobility allows them to take advantage of resources across a vast territory, while avoiding areas of increased geological activity. What's particularly fascinating about the Wind Riders is their system of communication. They've trained a species of hardy pigeon to carry messages between their scattered bands, creating a reliable long-distance communication network that doesn't rely on electricity or complex technology. On the coast of what used to be Japan, we find the aquatic community of Nami no Mura, or Village of the Waves. Built on a series of interconnected floating platforms, Nami no Mura is a testament to human adaptability in the face of rising sea levels and unstable land. The villagers of Nami no Mura have become masters of marine resources. They've developed advanced aquaculture systems, cultivating not just fish but also a variety of seaweeds and shellfish. Their floating gardens, protected from saltwater intrusion, provide fresh fruits and vegetables. But perhaps most impressive is their system of tidal energy generation, using the constant motion of the waves to power their entire village. Nami no Mora has also become a haven for marine life. The structures of the village provide shelter for countless species of fish and other sea creatures. The villagers have developed a symbiotic relationship with their aquatic neighbors, protecting and nurturing the marine ecosystem that in turn supports their way of life. These communities, from New Cascadia to Nami no Mora, represent just a fraction of the innovative survival techniques that have emerged in our post-quake world. Each has found unique ways to adapt to their changed environment, developing solutions that address their specific challenges. What's truly inspiring about these stories is not just the ingenuity on display, but the spirit of resilience and cooperation that underlies each community. In the face of unimaginable challenges, these survivors have come together, pooled their knowledge and resources, and created new ways of living that are often more sustainable and harmonious with the natural world than what came before. These communities offer us more than just inspiration. They provide valuable lessons that we can all learn from. The vertical gardens of New Cascadia could be adapted for use in other forested regions. The water management techniques of Sunhaven could be crucial for other communities in arid areas. The knowledge preservation efforts of Unity remind us all of the importance of education and the sharing of information. As we move forward in this changed world, it's crucial that we continue to share these stories and learn from each other. Every innovation, every adaptation, brings us one step closer to not just surviving, but thriving in our new reality. Remember, survivors, that you are not alone in your struggles. Across the world, in every environment, people just like you are finding ways to overcome the challenges we face. Your own innovations, your own adaptations, could be the key. In our next segment, we'll be diving deeper into the science behind the ongoing seismic activity and exploring the latest theories about the future of our geologically active world. Until then, this is Atlas, reminding you to stay strong, stay innovative, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your lifeline in the post-quake world. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your guide through the ever-shifting landscape of our post-quake world. In our previous segments, we've explored various aspects of survival and adaptation. Today, we're going to delve into the science behind the ongoing seismic activity that has reshaped our planet and discuss the efforts being made to predict and prevent future catastrophes. Let's start with the basics. The Earth's crust, the outermost layer of our planet, is divided into several large tectonic plates. These plates are constantly moving, albeit usually at a very slow pace. The boundaries where these plates meet are where we typically see the most geological activity, including earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. What made the events of 247 days ago so catastrophic was the unprecedented scale and synchronicity of seismic activity across multiple plate boundaries. It was as if the entire crust of the Earth decided to shift all at once. The exact cause of this global event is still a matter of intense debate among the surviving scientific community. One prevailing theory suggests that a series of deep Earth events, possibly related to changes in the Earth's core, triggered a cascade of tectonic shifts. This theory posits that the liquid outer core of the Earth experienced a sudden change in its flow patterns, which in turn affected the mantle, the layer between the core and the crust. This disturbance in the mantle then propagated to the crust, causing the global seismic event we experienced. Another hypothesis focuses on the role of human activity in triggering this catastrophe. Some scientists argue that decades of resource extraction, particularly deep earth mining and fracking, may have weakened crucial points in the Earth's crust. When combined with the stresses already present due to natural tectonic movement, this weakening could have led to the synchronized failure we witnessed. Regardless of the initial trigger, what we do know is that the events of 247 days ago have fundamentally altered the dynamics of our planet's geology. The massive shifts we experienced have released centuries' worth of built-up tectonic stress in some areas, while creating new stress points in others. This has led to a period of increased and unpredictable seismic activity that continues to this day. Now, let's talk about the efforts being made to predict and prevent future seismic events. In the immediate aftermath of the catastrophe, much of our advanced technology for monitoring geological activity was destroyed or rendered inoperable. However, The scientific community has shown remarkable resilience and ingenuity in developing new methods for earthquake prediction. One of the most promising developments has come from the community of Condor's Nest in the Andes, which we mentioned in our previous segment. Their network of simple, robust seismic sensors has proven remarkably effective at detecting precursor tremors that often occur before major quakes. This system relies on a combination of ground-based sensors and careful observation of animal behavior, as many species seem to be able to sense impending seismic activity. In coastal areas, survivors have developed new techniques for monitoring changes in sea level and ocean temperature, both of which can be indicators of submarine seismic activity. The aquatic community of Nami no Mora has been at the forefront of this research, using their intimate connection with the ocean to detect subtle changes that might precede a major event. Perhaps the most exciting development in earthquake prediction comes from an unexpected source. A group of survivors in what used to be Silicon Valley has managed to repurpose a network of smartphones into a distributed seismic monitoring system. By using the accelerometers present in most smartphones, they've created a vast network of sensors that can detect and triangulate seismic activity with remarkable accuracy. However, prediction is only part of the solution. Equally important are efforts to mitigate the impact of seismic events when they do occur. In this area, we've seen some truly innovative approaches to building and urban planning. The community of New Cascadia, which we discussed earlier, has been pioneering new construction techniques that allow buildings to flex and move with seismic waves rather than resisting them. Their use of advanced materials salvaged from pre-quake research facilities, combined with traditional building methods from earthquake-prone regions, has resulted in structures that can withstand intense shaking with minimal damage. In Unity, the diverse city-state in the heart of Africa, architects and engineers from around the world have come together to design a new kind of urban environment. The city is built in concentric circles, with each ring capable of moving independently during a seismic event. This design disperses the energy of earthquakes, preventing the catastrophic failures we saw in many pre-quake cities. But perhaps the most ambitious project aimed at preventing future catastrophes is taking place deep beneath the surface of the Earth. A coalition of surviving scientists and engineers, backed by resources from several large communities, has begun an effort to drill into the Earth's crust at key tectonic boundaries. The goal of this project, dubbed Operation Pressure Release, is to find ways to safely release built-up tectonic stress before it reaches catastrophic levels. The project is not without its critics. Some argue that interfering with tectonic processes could lead to unintended consequences, potentially triggering the very events we're trying to prevent. Others point out that our understanding of deep Earth processes is still limited, and that such intervention could be dangerously premature. Despite these concerns, the project continues. Early results have been promising, with several small, controlled releases of tectonic stress successfully executed. However, it will likely be years before we know whether this approach can truly prevent major seismic events. In the meantime, communities around the world continue to adapt to our more geologically active reality. We're seeing a trend towards more flexible, resilient forms of architecture and urban planning. Many survivors have embraced a semi-nomadic lifestyle, ready to move quickly if seismic activity threatens their current location. There's also been a renewed interest in traditional knowledge about living in harmony with our planet's natural cycles. Indigenous communities that have lived in seismically active regions for thousands of years are sharing their ancestral wisdom about predicting and surviving earthquakes. This knowledge, combined with our modern scientific understanding, is helping to create a new, more holistic approach to geological risk management. One particularly interesting development has been the emergence of geological refugees as a recognized group. These are survivors who have been forced to relocate multiple times due to ongoing seismic activity in their home regions. Many communities have begun to set aside resources and living space specifically for these highly mobile populations, recognizing that in our new world, we may all need to be ready to move at a moment's notice. As we look to the future, it's clear that our relationship with the Earth itself must change. We can no longer view our planet as a static stage for human activity, but must instead recognize it as a dynamic, ever-changing system of which we are just one part. This shift in perspective is leading to new areas of scientific inquiry. Some researchers are exploring the possibility that the recent seismic activity is part of a larger cycle of planetary change, one that operates on timescales far beyond human experience. Others are investigating the complex interplay between geological processes and climate, seeking to understand how the reshaping of our planet's surface might affect weather patterns and ecosystems in the years to come. There's also growing interest in the potential benefits of our more geologically active world. The upheaval we've experienced has exposed new mineral deposits in many areas, some of which could be crucial for rebuilding our technology infrastructure. In other regions, the changed landscape has created new opportunities for geothermal energy production. However, as we explore these potential benefits, we must be cautious. Our pre-quake civilization's voracious appetite for resources played a role in destabilizing the planet's systems. As we rebuild, we have an opportunity to create a more sustainable, harmonious relationship with our geological environment. This brings us to perhaps the most important aspect of our ongoing adaptation to this new, more geologically active world: the need for a fundamental shift in how we think about our place on this planet. The catastrophe we've lived through has shown us, in the most visceral way possible, that we are not separate from the Earth's systems, but intrinsically part of them. Many survivors speak of a new sense of connection to the land beneath their feet. There's a growing recognition that the tremors we feel are not just threats to be feared, but reminders of the living, dynamic nature of our planet. This perspective is leading to new forms of spirituality and philosophy that emphasize harmony with natural processes rather than dominion over them. In practical terms, this shift in thinking is manifesting in a variety of ways. We're seeing a move away from large, centralized resilient systems. Many communities are embracing cyclical, regenerative approaches to resource use, mimicking the Earth's own geological cycles. Education is also evolving to reflect this new reality. In surviving schools and learning centers, geology and earth sciences are no longer niche subjects but core parts of the curriculum. Children are being taught not just how to survive earthquakes, but how to read the landscape, understand geological processes, and live in harmony with the Earth's rhythms. As we conclude this segment on the science of our post-quake world, I want to emphasize that while we've made great strides in understanding and adapting to our new reality, there's still much we don't know. The Earth continues to surprise us, reminding us of the limits of our knowledge and the need for continued learning and adaptation. Remember, survivors, that each of you has a role to play in this ongoing process of discovery and adaptation. Your observations, your experiences, your innovations all contribute to our collective understanding of this new world we inhabit. Stay curious, stay observant, and don't hesitate to share your insights with your community and with us here at Station Firefly. In our next segment, we'll be exploring the challenges and opportunities of rebuilding society in our post-quake world. We'll look at how communities are reestablishing governance structures, education systems, and economic models adapted to our new reality. Until then, this is Atlas, reminding you to stay alert, stay adaptable, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your lifeline in these shifting times. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your guide through the challenges and triumphs of our post-quake world. In our previous segments, we've explored various aspects of survival and adaptation, from securing basic necessities to understanding the science behind our new geological reality. Today, we're going to delve into the complex task of rebuilding society in this changed world. The catastrophic events of 247 days ago didn't just reshape our planet's geography. They also shattered the social, political, and economic structures that we once took for granted. In the immediate aftermath, survival was the only priority. But as communities have stabilized and basic needs are being met, we're seeing a growing focus on reestablishing the frameworks that allow societies to function and thrive. Let's start by looking at how governance structures are evolving in our post-quake world. The collapse of many national governments in the wake of the disaster left a power vacuum that survivors have had to fill in creative ways. We're seeing a trend towards more localized, direct forms of democracy in many communities. Take, for example, the floating city of River's End in the expanded Mississippi Basin. They've developed a system of rotating leadership, where every adult member of the community takes turns serving on a council that makes decisions for the group. This approach ensures that everyone has a voice in governance and that power doesn't become concentrated in the hands of a few. In larger settlements, we're seeing hybrid models that combine elements of direct democracy with more traditional representative systems. Unity, the diverse city-state in Africa, has implemented a tiered governance structure. At the neighborhood level, residents participate directly in decision-making through regular assemblies. These neighborhood assemblies then elect representatives to a citywide council that handles larger-scale issues. What's particularly interesting about Unity's approach is how they've integrated technology into their governance system. Using salvaged and repurposed computer equipment, they've created a digital platform that allows for real-time voting and discussion on community issues. This system ensures that even as the city grows, every resident can still have a direct say in decisions that affect them. In some regions, we're seeing the emergence of new forms of confederation between settlements. The Wind Riders of the Central Asian steppes, despite their nomadic lifestyle, have created a loose alliance with other communities in the region. They come together for seasonal gatherings to trade, share information, and make collective decisions about resource management and mutual defense. These new governance structures are not without their challenges. Many communities are grappling with questions of justice and conflict resolution in a world where formal legal systems have collapsed. Some have turned to traditional methods of mediation and restorative justice, while others are experimenting with new approaches. The community of New Cascadia has implemented an interesting system they call conflict circles. When disputes arise, the parties involved, along with community volunteers, form a circle to discuss the issue. The goal is not to assign blame, but to understand the root of the conflict and find a solution that benefits the community as a whole. This approach has proven effective not just for resolving disputes, but for building stronger community bonds. As we rebuild our societies, education has emerged as a critical focus. With formal school systems disrupted and many educational resources lost, communities have had to get creative in how they pass on knowledge to the next generation. In Sunhaven, the cliff-dwelling community in the former American Southwest, education has become a community-wide responsibility. Every adult is expected to contribute to the education of the young, sharing their specific skills and knowledge. Children learn not in classrooms, but through hands-on participation in community tasks, supplemented by more formal lessons in core subjects. This apprenticeship model of education is becoming common in many communities, adapted to fit local needs and resources. In Nami no Mura, the floating village off the coast of former Japan, children start learning the skills of aquaculture and marine navigation from a young age, ensuring that crucial survival knowledge is passed on. But it's not just practical skills that are being taught. Many communities recognize the importance of preserving and passing on cultural knowledge, history, and the arts. In Unity, the Great Library has become a center of learning, with classes and workshops covering everything from pre-quake history to philosophy and the sciences. There's also been a renewed emphasis on environmental education. In our more geologically active world, understanding Earth systems is no longer just an academic pursuit but a crucial survival skill. Many communities have integrated earth science and ecology into every aspect of their educational programs. The challenge of rebuilding our economies in this changed world has led to some innovative solutions. With global supply chains disrupted and many resources scarce, we're seeing a shift towards more localized, circular economic models. Barter systems have become common, especially between different communities. The Wind Riders, for instance, trade their expertise in animal husbandry and their hardy livestock for goods they can't produce themselves from more settled communities. In some areas, we're seeing the emergence of new forms of currency. New Cascadia has implemented a system of labor credits, where hours of work contributed to community projects can be exchanged for goods and services. This system encourages participation in communal efforts while providing a flexible medium of exchange. Resource management has become a crucial aspect of these new economies. Many communities have implemented systems to carefully track and allocate resources, ensuring sustainable use and fair distribution. In Sunhaven, for example, water usage is meticulously monitored and regulated, with incentives for conservation and penalties for waste. We're also seeing a resurgence of repair and reuse cultures. With new goods scarce, The ability to repair and repurpose items has become highly valued. Many communities have established workshops where people can learn repair skills and access tools. This not only helps to conserve resources, but also provides meaningful work for community members. In some regions, specialized production hubs have begun to emerge. These are communities that focus on producing specific goods that are then traded with other settlements. For instance, a community in the former wine-growing regions of California has begun cultivating hardy grape varieties suited to the new climate, producing wine that has become a valued trade good. As we rebuild our economies, there's been a strong emphasis on sustainability and resilience. Many communities are exploring ways to create closed-loop systems where waste from one process becomes input for another. In Nami no Mora, for example, waste from fish processing is used to fertilize their floating gardens, which in turn help to feed the fish in their aquaculture operations. The reshaping of our world has also led to the emergence of new industries. Geological surveying has become a crucial field, with experts in high demand to assess the stability of potential settlement sites. Salvage operations, particularly in submerged coastal areas, have become major economic activities in many regions. We're also seeing the birth of new craft traditions adapted to our changed world. In New Cascadia, artisans have developed techniques for creating beautiful, durable textiles from the bark of local trees. These textiles have not only practical value but have become prized trade goods, helping to reestablish cultural and economic links between communities. As we rebuild our societies, we're faced with the challenge of reestablishing communication and transportation networks. The collapse of global telecommunications infrastructure and the reshaping of landscapes have made this a daunting task. Radio has emerged as a crucial technology in this effort. Communities around the world have been working to establish networks of radio relay stations, allowing for long-distance communication. These networks are not just used for sharing news and information, but also for coordinating trade and mutual aid between settlements. In terms of transportation, we're seeing a return to more traditional methods in many areas. River travel has become increasingly important, especially in regions where seismic activity has made land routes unstable. The community of River's End has become a hub for river trade, with their fleet of adaptable vessels able to navigate the changed waterways of the Mississippi Basin. In mountainous regions, communities are reviving and adapting ancient techniques for creating safe passage through treacherous terrain. The people of Condor's Nest have become experts in constructing and maintaining rope bridges that can withstand both the thin mountain air and frequent tremors. Despite the challenges we face, there are signs of hope for larger-scale reconstruction efforts. In some regions, coalitions of communities are coming together to tackle bigger projects. There are plans underway to reestablish limited rail networks in parts of Europe and to construct a series of solar-powered communication relay stations across the African continent. As we rebuild, we're also grappling with questions of identity and culture in our changed world. Many survivors speak of a new sense of global citizenship, born from the shared experience of catastrophe and the recognition of our common humanity in the face of adversity. At the same time, there's been a renewed appreciation for cultural diversity and traditional knowledge. Many communities are making concerted efforts to preserve languages, customs, and traditional practices that might otherwise be lost. In unity, regular cultural festivals celebrate the diverse heritage of its inhabitants, fostering understanding and cooperation. We're also seeing the emergence of new cultural forms that reflect our post-quake reality. New music styles, art forms, and storytelling traditions are developing, often blending elements from diverse cultures. These new forms of expression are helping us to process our collective trauma and imagine new possibilities for our future. As we conclude this segment on rebuilding society, it's important to recognize that this is an ongoing process. We are not simply recreating what was lost, but reimagining what society can be in light of our new reality. The challenges we face are immense, but so is our capacity for innovation and adaptation. Remember, survivors, that each of you has a role to play in this process of rebuilding. Your ideas, your skills, your cultural knowledge all contribute to shaping the societies we are creating. Stay engaged, stay cooperative, and don't be afraid to imagine new possibilities. In our next segment, we'll be exploring the psychological aspects of survival in our post-quake world, discussing strategies for maintaining mental health and building personal resilience in these challenging times. Until then, this is Atlas, reminding you to stay strong, stay connected, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your lifeline in this brave new world we're building together. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your companion in navigating the psychological landscape of our post-quake world. In our previous segments, we've covered the practical aspects of survival and rebuilding. Today, we're going to delve into an equally crucial but often overlooked aspect of our new reality: mental health and coping strategies. The events of 247 days ago didn't just reshape our physical world, they also profoundly impacted our collective psyche. The trauma of the catastrophe, the loss of loved ones, the destruction of our familiar environments, and the ongoing stress of survival have all taken a significant toll on our mental well-being. Yet, in the face of these challenges, the human spirit has shown remarkable resilience. Let's start by acknowledging a fundamental truth. It's okay to not be okay. The emotions you're experiencing, whether it's grief, anxiety, anger, or a sense of hopelessness, are normal responses to abnormal circumstances. Recognizing and accepting these feelings is the first step in learning to cope with them. Many survivors report experiencing what psychologists call survivor's guilt. This is a feeling of guilt for having survived when others did not. It's important to understand that these feelings, while painful, are a common response to trauma. Remember, your survival is not a betrayal of those who were lost. The best way to honor their memory is to live, to rebuild, and to create a better world in their name. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is another common challenge in our post-quake world. Symptoms can include flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, and uncontrollable thoughts about the catastrophe. If you're experiencing these symptoms, know that you're not alone, and there are strategies that can help. One effective approach for managing PTSD symptoms is grounding techniques. These are methods that help you stay present in the moment, rather than getting lost in traumatic memories. A simple but powerful technique is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. When you feel anxiety rising, focus on naming 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This engages your senses and helps anchor you in the present. Mindfulness and meditation practices have also proven beneficial for many survivors. These techniques help to calm the mind and reduce stress. Even a few minutes of focused breathing each day can make a significant difference. In Unity, daily communal meditation sessions have become an important part of community life, helping residents manage stress and build resilience. Physical activity is another powerful tool for maintaining mental health. Exercise releases endorphins, natural mood boosters that can help combat depression and anxiety. Even in confined spaces or with limited resources, there are ways to stay active. The residents of New Cascadia have developed a unique form of yoga adapted to their treetop dwellings, combining physical exercise with the mindfulness benefits of traditional yoga practices. Maintaining social connections is crucial for our mental well-being. Isolation can exacerbate feelings of depression and anxiety. Even if physical proximity isn't possible, finding ways to connect with others is important. In many communities, regular gatherings for meals, storytelling, or music have become important rituals that help foster a sense of belonging and mutual support. The community of River's End has implemented an interesting system they call buddy circles. Each resident is part of a small group that checks in on each other regularly. These circles provide emotional support, practical help, and a sense of connection that has proven invaluable in maintaining mental health. For those struggling with more severe mental health issues, many communities have worked to establish support systems. In the absence of formal mental health services, peer support groups have become common. These groups provide a safe space for individuals to share their experiences and coping strategies. Some communities have also trained community members in basic counseling techniques. While not a replacement for professional mental health care, these community counselors provide a vital support system. In Sunhaven, for example, a group of residents with backgrounds in psychology and social work have established a mental health clinic. offering both individual and group therapy sessions. Children and adolescents face unique challenges in coping with our post-quake reality. Many have experienced significant trauma and loss at a young age. Providing stability, routine, and opportunities for play and creativity is crucial for their mental well-being. In Nami no Mura, the floating village has created a children's garden where young residents can engage in supervised play and artistic activities. This space provides a much-needed outlet for creativity and a sense of normalcy in their changed world. Many communities have also recognized the therapeutic value of storytelling and art in processing trauma. Regular storytelling circles, where both children and adults can share their experiences and feelings, have become common. These not only help individuals process their emotions, but also foster a sense of shared experience and community solidarity. The Wind Riders have adapted their traditional oral storytelling practices to include healing stories that specifically address the trauma of the catastrophe and the challenges of their new nomadic lifestyle. These stories provide comfort, offer coping strategies, and help to create a shared narrative of resilience. As we rebuild our societies, many communities are placing a strong emphasis on creating environments that support mental health. This includes designing living spaces that foster social interaction, creating green spaces for relaxation and connection with nature, and ensuring access to quiet areas for reflection and meditation. The community of Condor's Nest has taken an innovative approach to this. They've created a series of contemplation nooks throughout their mountain settlement. These small, peaceful spaces offer stunning views of the surrounding landscape and provide residents with places for quiet reflection and emotional recharging. It's also important to address the ongoing stress caused by our more geologically active world. The constant threat of earthquakes and other seismic events can create a pervasive sense of anxiety. Many communities have found that knowledge and preparation can help alleviate this stress. Clear emergency procedures and ongoing education about seismic activity can help residents feel more in control. Some communities have even turned this into a form of empowerment. In New Cascadia, children are taught to be earthquake detectives, learning to read the subtle signs in nature that might predict seismic activity. This not only provides practical knowledge, but also helps transform fear into a sense of capability and resilience. Cultivating a sense of purpose and meaning is another crucial aspect of maintaining mental health in our changed world. Many survivors speak of a renewed appreciation for life and a desire to contribute to the rebuilding of society. Engaging in meaningful work, whether it's tending community gardens, participating in governance, or teaching valuable skills to others, can provide a sense of purpose that's vital for mental well-being. In Unity, the concept of community service has been elevated to a core value. Every resident is encouraged to contribute their skills and time to projects that benefit the community as a whole. This not only helps to meet practical needs, but also fosters a sense of belonging and purpose that's crucial for mental health. It's also important to acknowledge the role of hope in maintaining mental resilience. In the face of tremendous challenges, maintaining hope for the future can be difficult. Yet, it's this hope that drives us to rebuild, to innovate, and to create new possibilities. Many communities have found ways to cultivate hope through collective visioning exercises. In these sessions, residents come together to imagine and plan for the future they want to create. These exercises not only provide a sense of direction and purpose, but also remind us that we have the power to shape our future, even in the face of adversity. The community of Sunhaven has taken this concept a step further. They've created a future museum, a space where residents can contribute art, writing, and models depicting their visions for the future. This ever-evolving exhibition serves as a constant reminder of the better world they're working to create. As we navigate the psychological challenges of our post-quake world, it's crucial to remember that healing is not a linear process. There will be good days and bad days, steps forward and steps back. Be patient with yourself and with others. Every day that you survive, every moment that you find joy or purpose, is a victory. Remember also the importance of self-care. In the drive to rebuild and survive, it's easy to neglect our own needs. But taking time for rest, for activities that bring you joy, for connection with others, is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's what gives us the strength to continue, to face each new challenge, to build the future we envision. In many communities, the concept of rest days has been formalized. These are days when non-essential work is paused, and residents are encouraged to rest, reflect, and engage in activities that nourish their spirits. This recognition of the need for balance between work and rest is crucial for long-term mental health and community resilience. As we conclude this segment on mental health and coping strategies, I want to emphasize that you are not alone in your struggles. The challenges we face are collective, and so too must be our healing. Reach out to those around you, share your experiences, offer support, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Remember, survivors, that your mental health is just as important as your physical well-being. The strength of our communities, the success of our rebuilding efforts, depends not just on our ability to secure food and shelter, but on our capacity to maintain hope, to support one another, and to find meaning and purpose in our new reality. In our next segment, we'll be exploring long-term survival strategies, looking at how communities are planning for the future and developing sustainable practices adapted to our changed world. Until then, this is Atlas reminding you to take care of yourselves and each other. Stay strong, stay connected, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your companion in navigating the emotional landscape of our brave new world. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your guide to long-term survival in our post-quake world. In our previous segments, we've covered immediate survival needs, community building, and mental health. Today, we're going to look further into the future, exploring strategies for sustainable living and long-term resilience in our changed environment. As we pass the 247-day mark since the Great Catastrophe, many communities are shifting their focus from day-to-day survival to planning for the years and decades ahead. This shift requires us to think deeply about how we interact with our environment, manage our resources, and structure our societies for long-term sustainability. Let's start by discussing sustainable food production. The disruption of global agricultural systems and the reshaping of our landscapes have forced us to radically rethink how we feed ourselves. Many communities are embracing permaculture principles, creating food systems that work with natural ecosystems rather than against them. In New Cascadia, for example, they've developed a multi-layered forest garden system. Tall fruit and nut trees form the upper canopy, with smaller berry bushes and vegetable plants below. This mimics the structure of a natural forest, creating a diverse and resilient food source that requires minimal maintenance once established. Aquaponic systems have become popular in many communities, particularly in urban areas where space is at a premium. These systems combine fish farming with hydroponic plant growing, creating a closed-loop system where fish waste feeds the plants, and the plants clean the water for the fish. In unity, large-scale aquaponics facilities now provide a significant portion of the city's food supply. The community of Sunhaven has taken an innovative approach to agriculture in their arid environment. They've revived and adapted ancient desert farming techniques, creating a network of sunken gardens that capture and retain precious rainwater. These gardens are complemented by drought-resistant crops grown on the surrounding cliffsides, maximizing the use of available space and water. Water management is a critical aspect of long-term survival, particularly in regions where climate patterns have shifted. Many communities are implementing extensive rainwater harvesting systems. In River's End, every structure in the floating city is designed to capture and store rainwater, ensuring a stable supply even during dry periods. In coastal areas, desalination has become a key technology. The floating village of Nami no Mura has developed an innovative solar-powered desalination system that provides fresh water for drinking and agriculture. They're now working on scaling up this technology to support larger populations. Energy production is another crucial consideration for long-term survival. With many traditional power sources disrupted or depleted, communities are turning to renewable energy solutions. Solar power has emerged as a popular option due to its scalability and relatively simple maintenance requirements. The community of Condor's Nest has become a leader in high-altitude solar energy production. The thin air and clear skies of their mountain home provide ideal conditions for solar power. They've developed lightweight, flexible solar panels that can be easily transported and installed on the steep mountain slopes. Wind power is another important energy source, particularly in coastal and plains regions. The Wind Riders have become experts in portable wind turbine technology, using small, efficient turbines to power their nomadic camps. In more settled areas, we're seeing the emergence of community-owned wind farms that provide power for entire settlements. Geothermal energy is gaining traction in regions with high volcanic activity. While it requires more initial investment and expertise to set up, geothermal power provides a stable, long-term energy source. Several communities in the former Ring of Fire region are pioneering new, small-scale geothermal technologies adapted to our more geologically active world. As we think about long-term survival, waste management becomes a critical issue. Many communities are adopting zero-waste philosophies, viewing waste not as a problem to be disposed of, but as a resource to be utilized. In Unity, they've implemented an extensive composting and recycling program. Organic waste is transformed into nutrient-rich soil for their urban farms, while inorganic materials are carefully sorted and repurposed. They've even developed a small-scale plastics recycling facility, turning salvaged plastic into useful items for the community. The concept of a circular economy, where resources are continuously reused and recycled, is gaining traction in many settlements. This approach not only reduces waste but also decreases the need for new resource extraction, creating more sustainable, self-sufficient communities. Transportation is another key consideration for long-term survival. With fossil fuels scarce and many roads and railways destroyed, communities are developing new, sustainable transportation systems. In regions with stable waterways, we're seeing a resurgence of water-based transportation. River's End has become a hub for the development of solar and wind-powered boats, ranging from small personal craft to larger vessels capable of transporting goods between settlements. On land, many communities are returning to animal power for transportation and agriculture. The Wind Riders have become renowned for their breeding and training of hardy, intelligent horses adapted to the challenges of our new world. In more settled areas, we're seeing local transportation and small-scale freight. For longer distance travel, some communities are experimenting with airships. These lighter-than-air craft offer the advantage of being able to navigate our reshaped landscapes without the need for extensive ground infrastructure. A group of engineers in what used to be Switzerland is working on developing solar-powered airships that could revolutionize long-distance transportation and trade. As we plan for the long term, education becomes increasingly important. Many communities are reimagining education systems to prepare the next generation for the challenges and opportunities of our new world. In Sunhaven, education is deeply integrated with daily life. Children learn mathematics and engineering principles by participating in the design and maintenance of the community's water management systems. Biology and ecology are taught through hands-on work in the gardens and surrounding desert ecosystem. The concept of lifelong learning has taken on new importance. In Unity, they've established a skills exchange program where residents can learn from each other's expertise. This not only ensures the preservation and dissemination of crucial knowledge, but also fosters a culture of continuous learning and adaptation. Many communities are also placing a renewed emphasis on preserving and passing on cultural knowledge. The Wind Riders have formalized their oral tradition, creating a core of memory keepers who are responsible for maintaining and sharing the group's history, traditions, and accumulated wisdom. As we look to the future, many communities are actively working to increase their resilience to future shocks and changes. This involves not just physical preparations, but also developing social and economic systems that can adapt to new challenges. Diversity has emerged as a key principle in building resilient communities. This applies to everything from crop selection to skill sets within the population. Communities that can draw on a wide range of knowledge and resources are better equipped to handle unexpected challenges. Flexibility is another crucial aspect of long-term resilience. Many communities are designing their physical infrastructure and social systems to be easily adaptable. In New Cascadia, for example, their treetop dwellings are designed with modular components that can be easily rearranged or replaced as needs change or in response to seismic activity. Redundancy is also an important consideration. Many communities are developing multiple systems for meeting critical needs like food, water, and energy. This ensures that if one system fails, others can pick up the slack. Looking even further into the future, some communities are beginning to think about how to rebuild larger-scale civilization. There's growing interest in reestablishing long-distance communication networks, with several projects underway to create new, resilient systems for sharing information and coordinating between distant settlements. There's also discussion about eventually rebuilding larger-scale governance structures. While most communities value their independence, there's recognition that some challenges, like managing shared resources or responding to large-scale threats, require coordination on a broader scale. The Community of Unity has been at the forefront of these discussions, hosting regular gatherings of representatives from settlements across the African continent. These summits focus on sharing knowledge, coordinating resource management, and laying the groundwork for future cooperation. As we conclude this segment on long-term survival strategies, it's important to remember that the future is not set in stone. The world we're building is shaped by our choices, our innovations, and our willingness to learn and adapt. The challenges we face are significant, but so is our capacity for resilience and creativity. Every day, in communities around the world, people are developing new solutions, rediscovering ancient wisdom, and reimagining what human civilization can be. Remember, survivors, that you are not just passive inhabitants of this new world, but active creators of its future. Your ideas, your efforts, your commitment to building sustainable and resilient communities all contribute to shaping the world we will leave for future generations. In our next segment, we'll be exploring the role of technology in our post-quake world, looking at how communities are adapting and repurposing pre-quake technologies and developing new innovations to meet the challenges of our new reality. Until then, this is Atlas, reminding you to think long-term, stay adaptable, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your guide to building a sustainable future in our brave new world. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your guide to navigating the technological landscape of our post-quake world. In our previous segments, we've explored various aspects of survival and rebuilding. Today, we're going to delve into the crucial role of technology in our new reality, examining how we're adapting pre-quake innovations and developing new solutions to meet the challenges we face. The catastrophic events of 247 days ago didn't just reshape our physical world. They also dramatically altered our relationship with technology. The collapse of global power grids, manufacturing supply chains, and communication networks forced us to reevaluate which technologies are truly essential and how we can maintain and adapt them with limited resources. Let's start by discussing one of the most fundamental technologies for our survival: water purification. With many water sources contaminated or altered by seismic activity, access to clean water has become a critical challenge. Communities around the world have been innovating in this area, combining old techniques with new technologies. In Sunhaven, they've developed an impressive solar distillation system. Using salvaged materials, they've created large-scale solar stills that can purify thousands of liters of water a day. The design is simple enough to be replicated by other communities, and Sunhaven has been actively sharing their blueprints through our radio network. Nami no Mura, the floating village we've mentioned before, has taken a different approach. They've adapted pre-quake reverse osmosis technology to work with their limited power supply. By combining hand-powered pumps with efficient membranes salvaged from abandoned desalination plants, they've created a system that can produce fresh water from seawater with minimal energy input. In the realm of energy production, we're seeing a fascinating blend of old and new technologies. Solar power has emerged as a key energy source for many communities due to its scalability and relatively simple maintenance requirements. However, the challenge lies in producing and maintaining solar panels without access to pre-quake manufacturing facilities. A group of survivors in what used to be Silicon Valley has risen to this challenge. They've developed a method for creating small-scale solar cells using salvaged electronics and locally sourced materials. While not as efficient as pre-quake solar panels, these DIY cells are providing crucial power to communities across the former West Coast. Wind power is another area of innovation. The Wind Riders have become experts in portable wind turbine technology, developing lightweight, collapsible turbines that can be easily transported and set up. These turbines use magnets salvaged from pre-quake hard drives and motors, showcasing the ingenuity of repurposing seemingly obsolete technology. In regions with geothermal activity, we're seeing the development of small-scale geothermal generators. A community in the former Iceland has created a modular geothermal system that can be easily installed in areas with hot springs or geysers. This technology is providing stable, round-the-clock power to several settlements in volcanically active regions. Communication technology has been another crucial area of focus. With global telecommunications networks down, communities have had to find new ways to stay connected. Radio, as you well know, has emerged as a key technology in this new world. But we're also seeing innovations that expand our communication capabilities. In Unity, they've developed a fascinating hybrid of old and new communication tech. By repurposing pre-quake smartphones and combining them with low-power, long-range radio transmitters, they've created a system they call the MeshNet. This allows for text and simple data transmission over long distances, creating a decentralized communication network that's highly resilient to disruptions. Some communities are even experimenting with reviving older communication technologies. In parts of North America, there's been a resurgence of interest in telegraph systems. Using salvaged electrical components and newly manufactured wire, these neo-telegraphs are providing a reliable, if somewhat slow, method of long-distance communication. Transportation technology has also seen significant innovation. With fuel scarce and many roads destroyed, communities have had to rethink how they move people and goods. In River's End, they've developed impressive water-based transportation solutions. They've created a fleet of solar electric boats, using salvaged electric motors and newly built solar panels. These vessels are now the lifeblood of trade along the expanded Mississippi water system. On land, we're seeing a revival of animal-powered transportation, but with some modern twists. In the plains of Central Asia, communities have developed new, lightweight cart designs that can be pulled by horses or oxen. These carts use modern materials salvaged from abandoned vehicles, making them much more efficient than their historical counterparts. In some areas, bicycle technology, collective in what used to be Amsterdam, has been producing sturdy, low-maintenance bicycles designed for our new world. These bikes can be easily repaired with simple tools and incorporate features like cargo carrying capacity and all-terrain tires. For longer distance travel, some communities are experimenting with airship technology. A group in the former Switzerland is working on developing solar-powered airships using a combination of salvaged materials and newly developed lightweight fabrics. While still in the experimental stage, these airships could revolutionize long-distance transportation and trade in our reshaped world. Medical technology is another area where we're seeing crucial innovations. With many modern hospitals non-functional and pharmaceutical supply chains disrupted, communities have had to find new ways to provide healthcare. In New Cascadia, they've developed a fascinating method for producing basic antibiotics using mold cultures and simple fermentation techniques. While not as potent as pre-quake antibiotics, these homebrewed medicines are saving lives. In Unity, a team of engineers and medical professionals has created a 3D printed prosthetics program. Using salvaged 3D printers and locally sourced materials, they're able to produce custom prosthetic limbs for survivors who were injured during the quakes. This technology is giving new mobility and independence to many who thought they'd lost it forever. We're also seeing innovations in diagnostic technology. A group in what used to be Japan has developed a simple, hand-powered centrifuge made from salvaged bicycle parts. This device allows for basic blood tests to be performed without electricity, a crucial capability for detecting and managing diseases in our new world. In the realm of agriculture, technology is playing a crucial role in ensuring food security. Vertical farming techniques, which were just beginning to gain traction before the quakes, have now become essential in many communities. In the remains of Singapore, survivors have converted the lower floors of several stable skyscrapers into highly efficient vertical farms. Using LED lights powered by rooftop solar panels, they're able to grow fresh produce year-round, regardless of outdoor conditions. Aquaponic systems, which combine fish farming with hydroponic plant growing, have also seen significant technological advancements. In Unity, they've developed a modular aquaponic system that can be easily scaled up or down depending on the needs of the community. These systems use sensors salvaged from pre-quake smart home devices to monitor water quality and automate feeding schedules, maximizing efficiency and output. Even in the realm of traditional agriculture, we're seeing technological innovations. In Sunhaven, they've developed an impressive drip irrigation system that uses solar-powered pumps and moisture sensors to precisely control water usage. This technology has allowed them to dramatically expand their agricultural output in their arid environment. As we look to the future, some communities are focusing on preserving and advancing scientific knowledge. In what used to be Geneva, a group of survivors has established what they call the new CERN. Using salvaged equipment from the original CERN facility, they're continuing to conduct fundamental physics research. While it might seem esoteric, this work could lead to crucial breakthroughs in energy production or material science that could benefit survivors worldwide. Education technology has also seen interesting developments. With formal school systems disrupted, many communities are turning to tech-enabled distance learning. In New Cascadia, they've repurposed old e-readers and tablets to create a digital library system. Solar-powered charging stations allow residents to access a vast repository of books, educational materials, and community-created content. The preservation of knowledge has become a key concern, leading to some innovative archival technologies. A group in what used to be the British Library has developed a method for etching vast amounts of data onto metal discs using lasers salvaged from old DVD players. These discs, which can store the equivalent of thousands of books, are designed to last for centuries, ensuring that human knowledge survives whatever further challenges we might face. As we adapt to our new reality, we're also seeing the development of new environmental monitoring technologies. In Condor's Nest, they've created a network of simple seismographs using salvaged smartphone accelerometers. This network provides early warning of seismic activity, crucial for a community living in an unstable mountain environment. Similarly, coastal communities have developed new technologies for monitoring sea levels and wave patterns. In Nami no Mora, they've created floating buoys equipped with pressure sensors that can detect tsunami waves long before they reach shore. This early warning system has already saved lives during several seismic events. As we conclude this segment on technology in our post-quake world, it's important to remember that our greatest technological asset is our human ingenuity. The innovations we've discussed today are just a fraction of the creative solutions being developed by survivors around the world. Every day, people are finding new ways to adapt pre-quake technologies to our new needs and developing entirely new solutions to the challenges we face. This spirit of innovation, this ability to look at the remnants of our old world and see new possibilities, is what will carry us forward into the future. Remember, survivors, that technology is a tool, not an end in itself. As we continue to innovate and adapt, we must always consider the long-term implications of our technological choices. The goal is not to simply recreate the world we lost, but to build something more sustainable, more resilient, and more in harmony with the new reality of our planet. In our next segment, we'll be exploring the changing dynamics of education and knowledge preservation in our post-quake world. We'll look at how communities are adapting to ensure crucial skills and information are passed on to future generations. Until then, this is Atlas, reminding you to stay curious, stay innovative, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your connection to the evolving technology of our brave new world. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your guide through the evolving landscape of education and knowledge preservation in our post-quake world. In our previous segments, we've explored various aspects of survival, rebuilding, and adaptation. Today, we're going to delve into how communities are ensuring that crucial skills and information are passed on to future generations, adapting educational practices to our new reality. The events of 247 days ago didn't just reshape our physical world. They also dramatically altered our approach to learning and knowledge transmission. With formal education systems disrupted and many traditional resources lost, communities have had to reimagine how we educate ourselves and our children. Let's start by looking at how basic education has evolved in various communities. In New Cascadia, they've adopted a holistic approach to learning that integrates education into daily life. Children learn mathematics and physics through practical applications in the community's treetop construction projects. Biology and ecology are taught through hands-on work in the forest gardens. This approach ensures that learning is directly relevant to survival and community needs. In Sunhaven, they've developed a unique rotation system of education. Children spend time learning from different community members, each specializing in crucial skills. One week might be spent with the water management team, learning about hydrology and engineering. The next could be with the agricultural specialists, studying botany and soil science. This system not only provides a well-rounded education, but also helps children discover their aptitudes and interests. The Wind Riders have taken a different approach, adapting their nomadic lifestyle to include a rich educational tradition. They've developed a core of knowledge keepers who are responsible for preserving and passing on crucial information. These individuals not only teach practical skills, but also maintain the community's oral history and cultural knowledge. Children learn through a combination of formal lessons and participation in daily activities, with education seen as a lifelong process. In Unity, they've leveraged their diverse population to create a unique educational model. The city has established knowledge exchanges, where residents can both teach and learn. This system recognizes that everyone has valuable skills or knowledge to share, whether it's a former university professor teaching advanced mathematics or a local farmer sharing techniques for drought-resistant agriculture. This approach has created a culture of continuous learning that extends well beyond childhood. One of the biggest challenges in our post-quake world has been the preservation and transmission of specialized knowledge. With many experts lost in the catastrophe and access to advanced facilities limited, communities have had to find creative ways to maintain and advance scientific and technical knowledge. In what used to be Geneva, the group we've previously mentioned as the New CERN has taken on the monumental task of preserving and advancing our understanding of fundamental physics. They've established an apprenticeship program where young people with an aptitude for science can learn directly from experienced physicists. This hands-on approach, combining theoretical study with practical work on salvaged equipment, is ensuring that this crucial field of knowledge isn't lost. Similarly, a collective of surviving tech experts has created what they call the Code Academy. Here, they're teaching the next generation the principles of computer science and software engineering. While they may not have access to the advanced hardware of the pre-quake world, they're ensuring that the fundamental knowledge of how to create and manipulate digital systems is preserved. Medical education has also seen significant changes. With formal medical schools no longer functioning, communities have had to develop new ways to train healthcare providers. In Unity, they've established a medical apprenticeship program that combines intensive study of salvaged medical texts with hands-on training in their community clinic. This program is not only producing new doctors and nurses, but also training community members in basic medical skills, creating a more resilient healthcare system. The preservation of historical and cultural knowledge has become a key concern for many communities. In what used to be the British Museum, a group of survivors has taken on the task of preserving and cataloging the artifacts that survived the quakes. They've developed an educational program that brings in young people to learn about archaeology, conservation, and history. This not only ensures the preservation of our past, but also helps to provide context and perspective as we build our future. Language preservation has emerged as another crucial area of focus. With communities now more isolated and global communication limited, there's a risk of losing the linguistic diversity of our pre-quake world. In response, many communities are making concerted efforts to maintain multilingual education. In Nami no Mura, for example, they've established a language exchange program where residents teach each other their native tongues. This not only preserves linguistic knowledge, but also fosters cultural understanding and connection. The transmission of practical, survival-oriented knowledge has, of course, taken on new importance. Many communities have formalized the teaching of skills like foraging, water purification, and basic construction techniques. In Condor's Nest, they've developed what they call survival streams in their education system. Each child, in addition to general education, specializes in a particular set of survival skills, ensuring that the community maintains a diverse range of expertise. The role of books and written knowledge in our post-quake world has been a subject of much discussion and innovation. With many libraries and bookstores destroyed, and digital information largely inaccessible, preserving and sharing written knowledge has become a critical challenge. In response, we've seen the emergence of book caravans in some regions. These are groups of travelers who carry books between communities, exchanging knowledge and stories. They not only transport physical books but also memorize key texts, becoming living libraries in their own right. This practice is reminiscent of ancient oral traditions, adapted for our new world. Some communities have taken innovative approaches to create new repositories of knowledge. In what used to be Salt Lake City, survivors have repurposed the naturally climate-controlled salt mines to create a vast underground library. Here, they're collecting and preserving books, documents, and other written materials from across the region. They've also begun the painstaking process of hand-copying rare or degrading texts to ensure their long-term preservation. Digital preservation of knowledge has been another area of focus. While much of our digital infrastructure was lost in the quakes, some communities have managed to salvage and maintain limited computing resources. In New Cascadia, they've created what they call the Digital Ark, a solar-powered server farm that stores vast amounts of digital information. They're constantly working to expand this database, adding everything from scientific papers to personal accounts of pre-quake life. The challenge of power supply for these digital preservation efforts has led to some creative solutions. A group in what used to be Iceland has developed a geothermally powered data center, using the island's natural heat to run and cool the servers that store their digital archives. This approach ensures a stable, long-term solution for preserving digital knowledge. As we adapt to our new reality, we're also seeing the development of new forms of knowledge and new fields of study. The dramatic changes to our planet have given rise to new areas of scientific inquiry. In Sunhaven, for example, they've established a research program focused on understanding and predicting the behavior of our more geologically active world. This blend of geology, physics, and data analysis is providing crucial insights that are helping communities around the world adapt to our new environment. Similarly, the challenges of surviving in our changed world have led to the emergence of new fields of engineering. In River's End, they've developed what they call adaptive architecture, a discipline that focuses on creating structures that can flex and change in response to seismic activity. This knowledge is being eagerly shared with other communities, helping to create safer, more resilient settlements. The way we think about and value different types of knowledge has also shifted in our post-quake world. Skills that might have been considered niche or outdated in our pre-quake society have taken on new importance. We're seeing a resurgence of interest in traditional crafts, native plant knowledge, and ancient agricultural techniques. Many communities are making concerted efforts to identify elders with this type of knowledge and create systems for passing it on to younger generations. This shift has also led to a reevaluation of what we consider essential knowledge. While advanced theoretical physics might seem less immediately relevant in our struggle for survival, many communities recognize the importance of maintaining this type of high-level knowledge. The challenges we face require not just practical skills, but also the ability to think abstractly, to innovate, and to understand the fundamental principles that govern our world. As we look to the future, many communities are grappling with the question of how to structure long-term educational systems. There's a recognition that while our immediate needs require a focus on practical, survival-oriented knowledge, we must also maintain a broader base of learning to support future innovation and cultural development. In Unity, they're experimenting with a flexible educational model that adapts as children grow. Early education focuses heavily on practical skills and community participation. As individuals mature, they have the opportunity to pursue more specialized knowledge, with the community supporting extended periods of study or apprenticeship in particular fields. The Wind Riders have taken a different approach, integrating education so thoroughly into their way of life that there's no clear distinction between school and real life. Learning is seen as a continuous, lifelong process, with every member of the community expected to both teach and learn as part of their daily existence. As we conclude this segment on education and knowledge preservation, it's important to recognize the crucial role that each of you, our listeners, play in this process. Every skill you maintain, every piece of knowledge you preserve and pass on, contributes to the collective wisdom that will shape our future. Remember, survivors, that education is not just about accumulating information. It's about developing the ability to think critically, to solve problems, to adapt to new situations. In our ever-changing world, these skills are more important than ever. We must also remain open to new forms of knowledge and new ways of learning. The challenges we face require us to be innovative not just in what we learn, but in how we learn. Every community, every individual, has the potential to contribute to this ongoing process of discovery and adaptation. In our next segment, we'll be exploring the evolving social structures in our post-quake world, looking at how communities are redefining concepts of governance, justice, and social organization. Until then, this is Atlas, reminding you to stay curious, keep learning, and continue listening to Station Firefly, your connection to the collective knowledge of our brave new world. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your guide to the evolving social landscape of our post-quake world. In our previous segments, we've explored various aspects of survival, rebuilding, and adaptation. Today, we're going to delve into how communities are redefining concepts of governance, justice, and social organization in the wake of the catastrophic events that began 247 days ago. The collapse of national governments and traditional power structures in the aftermath of the quakes left a vacuum that survivors have had to fill in creative and often inspiring ways. As we've seen in our explorations of different communities, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to governance in our new world. Instead, we're witnessing a diverse array of social structures adapted to the unique needs and circumstances of each group. Let's start by looking at how decision-making processes have evolved. In many smaller communities, we're seeing a return to direct democracy models. The floating city of River's End, for instance, has implemented a system of rotating leadership. Every adult member of the community takes turns serving on a council that makes decisions for the group. This approach ensures that everyone has a voice in governance and that power doesn't become concentrated in the hands of a few. In larger settlements, hybrid models that combine elements of direct democracy have emerged. Unity, the diverse city-state in Africa, has developed a tiered governance structure. At the neighborhood level, residents participate directly in decision-making through regular assemblies. These neighborhood assemblies then elect representatives to a citywide council that handles larger-scale issues. What's particularly interesting about Unity's approach is how they've integrated technology into their governance system. Using salvaged and repurposed computer equipment, they've created a digital platform that allows for real-time voting and discussion on community issues. This system ensures that even as the city grows, every resident can still have a direct say in decisions that affect them. The concept of leadership has also evolved in many communities. Rather than having fixed leaders, we're seeing more fluid, situation-based leadership models. In New Cascadia, for example, they operate on what they call an expertise-based leadership system. Depending on the issue at hand, the person with the most relevant knowledge and experience takes the lead. This might mean an engineer leads during infrastructure projects, while a former nurse takes charge during health crises. The Wind Riders have adapted their nomadic lifestyle to include a unique form of distributed leadership. They have a council of elders who provide guidance based on their accumulated wisdom and experience, but day-to-day decisions are made collectively by the entire group. This system allows for quick, flexible decision-making crucial for their mobile lifestyle, while still benefiting from the long-term perspective of their elders. As communities have stabilized and begun to look beyond immediate survival, we're seeing the emergence of more complex governance structures. Many settlements are creating specialized committees or departments to handle specific aspects of community life, such as resource management, education, or relations with other groups. In Sunhaven, they've developed an interesting stewardship model. Different aspects of community life, from water management to education to intercommunity relations, are overseen by dedicated stewards. These individuals are chosen based on their expertise and commitment to the community. They serve for set terms and are accountable to the entire community through regular town hall meetings. The question of how to maintain order and resolve conflicts in the absence of traditional law enforcement and judicial systems has been a significant challenge for many communities. We're seeing a wide range of approaches, often blending elements of formal justice systems with more community-oriented restorative practices. In New Cascadia, they've implemented a system they call conflict circles. When disputes arise, the parties involved, along with community volunteers, form a circle to discuss the issue. The goal is not to assign blame, but to understand the root of the conflict and find a solution that benefits the community as a whole. This approach has proven effective not just for resolving disputes, but for building stronger community bonds. Unity has taken a different approach, establishing a more formal justice system, but one that emphasizes rehabilitation over punishment. They have a core of trained mediators who handle minor disputes, while more serious offenses are dealt with by a community court. Sentences often involve community service and education rather than punitive measures, with the goal of reintegrating offenders into the community. The Wind Riders, with their emphasis on community cohesion, have developed a unique approach to conflict resolution. They practice what they call story circles, where individuals in conflict share their perspectives not as accusations, but as personal narratives. The community then works together to find a resolution that acknowledges all perspectives and reinforces group harmony. As communities have grown and stabilized, we're also seeing the emergence of intercommunity governance structures. In many regions, neighboring settlements are creating alliances and confederations to manage shared resources, coordinate defense, and facilitate trade. In what used to be the Pacific Northwest, a group of communities including New Cascadia has formed what they call the Cascadia Cooperative. This loose confederation meets regularly to coordinate on issues like water management, reforestation efforts, and mutual aid during seismic events. They've established a system of rotating hosting duties for these gatherings, which serve not just as policy-making sessions, but as opportunities for cultural exchange and strengthening intercommunity bonds. Similar alliances are forming in other parts of the world. In the expanded Mississippi Basin, River's End is part of a network of river communities that coordinate on water usage, flood control, and river-based trade. They've developed a fascinating system of river-based diplomacy, with regular flotillas that travel between settlements, combining trade, cultural exchange, and policy discussions. The question of how to handle population movements and the integration of newcomers has been a significant challenge for many communities, with ongoing seismic activity forcing some groups to relocate and others choosing to move in search of better conditions. Most settlements have had to develop policies for accepting and integrating new members. Unity, true to its name, has taken a particularly open approach. They've established a formal process for integrating newcomers, which includes an orientation period where new arrivals learn about the community's structure and expectations. They're then paired with existing residents who act as guides and mentors. This system has allowed Unity to grow and benefit from the diverse skills and perspectives of its new members while maintaining social cohesion. Other communities have taken more cautious approaches. Sunhaven, with its limited water resources, has a careful vetting process for new arrivals. They require potential new members to demonstrate skills that will contribute to the community and to agree to abide by strict water conservation rules. While this approach has limited their growth, it has ensured their long-term sustainability in their challenging desert environment. The Wind Riders have adapted their nomadic lifestyle to occasionally incorporate new members, but they do so carefully. Prospective members must travel with the group for a full seasonal cycle before being considered for full membership. This allows both the individual and the community to assess whether they're a good fit for the Wind Riders' unique way of life. As we rebuild our societies, many communities are taking the opportunity to address social inequalities that existed in the pre-quake world. We're seeing conscious efforts to create more equitable systems of resource distribution and to ensure that all members of the community have a voice in decision-making processes. In Unity, they've implemented what they call a basic resources guarantee. Every resident is ensured access to food, water, shelter, and basic health care, regardless of their role in the community. Beyond these basics, they've created a labor credit system that allows individuals to earn additional resources and luxuries through their work for the community. New Cascadia has taken a different approach, focusing on creating a gift economy. They encourage a culture of mutual aid and voluntary contribution, where individuals share their skills and resources freely with the community. While they do maintain some systems for tracking contributions to ensure fairness, the emphasis is on creating a culture of generosity and communal responsibility. The redefinition of work and value is another interesting aspect of our evolving social structures. Many communities are moving away from the rigid job specializations of the pre-quake world, instead encouraging individuals to develop a range of skills and to contribute in multiple ways to the community. In Sunhaven, they've developed a system of skill circles. Every resident is expected to have a primary area of expertise, but also to develop secondary and tertiary skills. This creates a web of overlapping competencies that makes the community more resilient and adaptable. It also allows for more flexibility in work arrangements, with individuals able to shift between different roles as needed. The Wind Riders take this flexibility even further. In their nomadic lifestyle, every member of the community is expected to be able to perform a wide range of tasks, from animal husbandry to navigation to conflict mediation. They see this adaptability as crucial not just for their survival, but as a fundamental part of their communal identity. As we look to the future, many communities are grappling with how to balance the need for effective governance with the desire to maintain the increased personal freedom and community engagement that has emerged in the wake of the catastrophe. There's a wariness of recreating the often distant and unresponsive power structures of the pre-quake world. In response, we're seeing the development of what some are calling responsive governance models. These systems aim to maintain the direct participation and communal responsibility that have been crucial for survival, while creating structures capable of handling the increasing complexity of our rebuilding societies. Unity is at the forefront of these efforts. They're experimenting with a dynamic system where the structure of governance itself is regularly reviewed and adjusted based on the community's changing needs. They hold governance assemblies twice a year where the entire community comes together to assess and potentially restructure their decision-making processes. As we conclude this segment on the evolving social structures of our post-quake world, we are in a period of unprecedented social experimentation. The challenges we face have forced us to rethink fundamental aspects of how we organize ourselves and make collective decisions. Remember, survivors, that you are not just subjects of these new social systems, but active participants in their creation and evolution. The choices we make now, the structures we build, will shape the world we leave for future generations. In our next segment, we'll be exploring visions for the future, looking at how different communities are planning for the long term and imagining what our world might look like in the decades to come. Until then, this is Atlas, reminding you to stay engaged, stay adaptable, and keep listening to Station Firefly, your connection to the evolving social landscape of our brave new world. Welcome back to Station Firefly Survivors. This is Atlas, your guide to the future we're building together in our post-quake world. Over the course of our previous segments, we've explored the many ways communities have adapted to survive and thrive in our changed reality. Today, as we conclude our broadcast, we'll be looking ahead, exploring visions for the future and examining how different communities are planning for the long term. It's been 247 days since the catastrophic events that reshaped our world. In that time, we've moved from mere survival to rebuilding, and now, increasingly, to envisioning what our world could become. The challenges we face are immense, but so too is our capacity for resilience, innovation, and hope. Let's start by looking at how some of the communities we've discussed throughout our broadcast are planning for their long-term futures. In New Cascadia, their vision centers on creating a harmonious balance between human habitation and the natural world. Their treetop city is just the beginning. They're developing plans for a network of interconnected arboreal settlements that could span the entire Pacific Northwest. The New Cascadians envision a future where technology and nature are seamlessly integrated. They're working on developing biomimetic technologies that draw inspiration from the forest ecosystem. Imagine buildings that grow and adapt like trees, water systems that mimic the natural water cycle of the forest, and energy systems that draw power from the subtle movements of branches in the wind. In Unity, their vision for the future is one of global reconnection. They see their diverse, cosmopolitan city-state as a model for a new kind of global community. They're actively working to reestablish long-distance communication networks and are even in the early stages of planning an international summit to bring together representatives from communities around the world. The Unity planners envision a future where knowledge and resources flow freely between settlements, transcending the old boundaries of nations and cultures. They dream of a world where diversity is celebrated, where the strengths of different communities are shared for the benefit of all. It's an ambitious vision, but one that's deeply rooted in the spirit of cooperation that has been crucial to their survival and success. The Wind Riders, true to their nomadic nature, envision a future of dynamic, flexible communities that can adapt to our ever-changing world. They're developing what they call a flow state society, where people, resources, and ideas are in constant, harmonious movement. In the Wind Riders' vision, static settlements are complemented by a network of nomadic groups that facilitate trade, share knowledge, and help distribute resources where they're most needed. They imagine a future where individuals might shift between settled and nomadic lifestyles throughout their lives, creating a society that's as fluid and adaptable as the wind they're named for. In Sunhaven, their vision is focused on transforming arid environments into thriving oases. They're not content with merely surviving in the desert. They want to regenerate it. Their long-term plans involve large-scale water harvesting projects, the development of new drought-resistant crops, and the gradual transformation of the surrounding desert into productive land. The Sunhaven visionaries dream of a future where their techniques for desert rejuvenation are applied on a global scale, turning the world's expanding arid regions into abundant, life-supporting environments. It's a vision that speaks to the power of human ingenuity to not just adapt to our changed world, but to actively improve it. River's End, with its unique perspective as a floating city, envisions a future where humanity returns to the water on a grand scale. They're developing plans for a network of interconnected floating communities that could potentially span entire ocean basins. In their vision, these aquatic settlements would not only provide homes for millions, but also play a crucial role in ocean conservation and resource management. The River's End planners dream of floating cities that generate their own food and energy, that can navigate to avoid extreme weather events, and that foster a new kind of global culture based on the shared experience of life on the water. It's a vision that embraces the fluidity and dynamism of our changed world. In Nami no Mura, their vision centers on deep integration with marine ecosystems. They're not content with merely living alongside the ocean. They want to become a functional part of it. Their long-term plans involve developing underwater habitats, advancing their aquaculture techniques to support entire reef ecosystems, and even experimenting with human adaptation to semi-aquatic lifestyles. The visionaries of Nami no Mura imagine a future where the line between land and sea, between human habitation and marine ecosystem, is blurred. They dream of cities that rise and fall with the tides, of humans who are as comfortable under the waves as above them, of a world where the vast resources of the ocean are sustainably harnessed for the benefit of all life. In Condor's Nest, their vision is all about reaching new heights, both literally and figuratively. They see their mountain home not as a place of refuge, but as a launching pad for human advancement. They're developing plans for a network of high-altitude research stations that could revolutionize our understanding of Earth sciences, climate, and even space exploration. The Condor's Nest dreamers envision a future where humanity not only survives in extreme environments but thrives in them. They imagine mountain cities that touch the clouds, advanced atmospheric water harvesting technologies that could green the world's highlands, and even the possibility of using their high-altitude expertise to establish the first settlements on other worlds. As we look at these visions for the future, it's clear that the catastrophe we've lived through has not dimmed human ambition or creativity. If anything, it has spurred us to dream bigger, to imagine futures that might have seemed impossible in our pre-quake world. But these grand visions are balanced by a new sense of responsibility and interconnectedness. Almost universally, the long-term plans we're seeing emphasize sustainability, harmony with natural systems, and the importance of community. The harsh realities of our post-quake world have taught us that we cannot stand apart from nature or from each other. Our future must be one of integration and balance. This shift in perspective is perhaps most evident in how communities are approaching technology. Rather than seeing technology as a means to dominate nature, there's a growing emphasis on biomimicry and eco-harmonious innovation. The goal is not to create technology that stands apart from natural systems, but that works in concert with them. In New Cascadia, for instance, they're developing building materials that can heal themselves using principles borrowed from the way trees repair damage. In Sunhaven, they're working on water harvesting systems that mimic the way certain desert plants collect moisture from the air. These are technologies that don't just coexist with nature, but actively contribute to ecosystem health. Another common thread in these visions of the future is an emphasis on resilience and adaptability. The unpredictability of our post-quake world has taught us the value of flexible systems that can respond to change. Whether it's the Wind Riders Flow State Society or Rivers End's mobile floating cities, we're seeing a move away from rigid, fixed structures towards more dynamic, responsive ways of living. This emphasis on adaptability extends to social structures as well. Many of the long-term plans we're seeing involve governance systems that can evolve and change as needs shift. The idea is to create societies that can learn and grow, that can respond to new challenges without losing their core values and identity. Education and knowledge sharing are also central to many of these future visions. There's a widespread recognition that our long-term success depends on our ability to preserve and expand human knowledge. We're seeing plans for new kinds of universities, for global knowledge networks, for systems of lifelong learning that could revolutionize how we think about education. In Unity, they're developing plans for what they call a living library, a continuously evolving repository of human knowledge that would be accessible to all. In Condor's Nest, they dream of a global network of high-altitude research stations that could dramatically advance our understanding of our changed world. These visions speak to a future where knowledge is not a commodity to be hoarded, but a shared resource that uplifts all of humanity. As we look to the future, many communities are also grappling with the question of how to heal our relationship with the Earth itself. The catastrophe we've lived through has made it clear there's an inexhaustible resource to be exploited. Instead, we're seeing visions of a future where human activity actually contributes to planetary health. In Sunhaven, for instance, their dream of transforming deserts into oases is not just about creating more habitable land for humans. It's about restoring ecosystems, increasing biodiversity, and potentially even influencing global climate patterns in positive ways. It's a vision of a future where human ingenuity is turned towards healing the damage we've done to our world. Similarly, the River's End vision of oceanic floating cities includes plans for large-scale ocean cleanup and ecosystem restoration projects. They see their future cities not just as human habitats, but as active contributors to ocean health, serving as hubs for conservation efforts and marine research. These visions of planetary stewardship extend beyond Earth as well. In Condor's Nest, their high-altitude research has led them to contemplate the possibility of human settlement on other worlds. But their vision is not one of conquest or exploitation. Instead, they talk about the potential for planetary gardening, the idea that human settlement could actually contribute to making other worlds more vibrant and life-supporting. As we contemplate these visions of the future, it's important to remember that the path forward will not be easy or straightforward. We face immense challenges, from ongoing geological instability to the long-term effects of climate change to the social and psychological impacts of the catastrophe we've lived through. But it's equally important to recognize the incredible progress we've already made. In just 247 days, we've gone from the brink of extinction to creating thriving communities with ambitious visions for the future. We've demonstrated resilience, creativity, and a capacity for cooperation that many might not have thought possible in our pre-quake world. As we move forward, we must hold on to that spirit of resilience and cooperation. The future we're building is not the work of any one community or individual, but a collective effort that requires all of our diverse skills, perspectives, and dreams. Remember, survivors, that you are not just witnesses to history, but active participants in shaping the future of our world. Every choice you make, every innovation you create, every act of kindness and cooperation contributes to the world we're building together. As we conclude this broadcast, I want to thank each and every one of you for your courage, your perseverance, and your hope. The road ahead may be long and challenging, but together, we have the power to create a future that is not just sustainable, but truly thriving. This is Atlas, signing off from Station Firefly. Stay strong, stay curious, and keep dreaming of the world we can build together. Until next time, remember that even in the darkest times, there is always hope. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep moving forward. The future is in our hands, and together, we will shape it into something beautiful.